Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our October 3rd regular council meeting. Time is 9:30, well, 9:32. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to start off the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which includes Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Otale, and Jordina Island First Nations. The Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters into perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'm going to ask everyone to please turn your cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't disturb the meeting. And I'm going to remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest. If it arises, you can declare it now, or if something comes up later, make sure you declare it then. So we're going to start off with an introduction of a new staff member to our building department. So Travis.
Morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So it's my pleasure to introduce our new deputy chief building official, bylaw enforcement officer, Dale Terrell. You gave me a speech on it yesterday on how to say it. Dale comes with a large variety of experience, 23 years in the design and 7 years as a building official with City of Toronto and Kingston. I'm happy to welcome Dale.
Welcome, Dale.
Thank you, and nice to meet you all.
Yeah,
Thanks for working with you all.
now's the time for the 20-minute speech.
20 minutes.
Yeah, well, welcome to Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, all right, we're going to move right into delegations, and our first delegation here is Tim Piddick.
Minutes.
Oh, sorry, jumped over the minutes. Minutes from September 19th meeting. To receive those. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconder Councillor Flagler, and you had a comment?
Yes, I would like to say that the dog park location, the proposal that we made for down here, last highlight into importance for West Park, East Park, is it
West
East Park? East Park, that is a proposal. And we're hoping that we can find an appropriate spot for our dog park, not necessarily at the park, the East Park.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, so that was in the
Sorry.
minutes from the last
Yes.
meeting, and it's just to clarify that this is just a proposal, and there's a lot of work to happen if that's going to happen. It would, there's a lot more discussion to go on, but that was in the minutes, and yeah, so you're seconding the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Flagler. All in favor? And that's carried. So now we can move into delegations, and our first delegation here is Tim Piddick, General Manager of PVCA, or Pro Valley Conservation Authority. Welcome, Tim.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Mayor Martin, for the introduction. Good morning, rest of council. I'm here today. I wish, and I know you folks are really busy. You have a busy agenda ahead of you, but I wish I could spend more time here discussing the authority in general, because I know some of you folks, you know, being new councillors, may not have the in-depth knowledge that Mayor Martin has, being a representative of the authority for a number of years. But I will come back at some point if you'll have me, and we can certainly discuss the authority in general. But today I need to focus specifically on an MOU that we are seeking council support for. It's part of our new budget process. The province has introduced changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. So this is part of those changes that we have to comply with. It's something that is being imposed on us by the province through these changes. So please bear with me. I'm going to, like I said, focus right in on specifics here, but I'm more than happy to answer questions that you may have after I've done my presentation. So as I mentioned, the CBCA is required to make changes recently implemented by the province that will also mean how we develop our budget and present it to our member municipalities, including, of course, your township HPM. Fortunately, the CBCA budget is less complicated than other conservation authorities, and the changes imposed on us probably are pretty straightforward in comparison. Biggest change will be the need to sign an MOU, which was circulated to council, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I need to give you a little bit of background first. So to arrive at where we need to be for our budget and the levy we need from our members, I would like to let you know the province has decided that we need to place our programs and services into one of three categories. By doing so, we can identify which program and service will require an MOU. The province has decided that any program or service related to our primary role as a conservation authority will be placed in category 1. This includes anything to do with water management, such as our dams, flood forecasting and warning, and our regulation program. And like, as I mentioned, I can always come back and speak specifically to those programs at another time. Also included in category 1 is the conservation and management of CBCA owned property and the CBCA's source water protection duties and responsibilities as per the Clean Water Act. All of these programs and services have been and are currently delivered by the CBCA, and our members are levied to pay for those responsibilities. This is how our budget was structured leading up to all of those changes by the province. And this is what the province has reaffirmed municipalities will be responsible for moving forward. Therefore, there are no agreements for category 1 items. They have to be delivered and they are covered in the CBCA levy to our member municipalities. Category 2 is simply any service or program the CBCA has taken on as requested by a township. For example, Highlands East was hired by the CBCA to take care of risk management official duties and responsibilities that the municipality is required to do under the Clean Water Act. You folks have hired, if I remember correctly, Orica to take on those RMO duties. So that doesn't need to be included in our MOU that I'm looking for today to get signed. Category 3 is for those other services and programs the CBCA has decided to undertake that is not a core service or program falling under category 1. Many other CAs have initiated programs like outreach and education for schools, or perhaps outdoor activities like tree planting, or maybe operating a historical museum. There's a number of different programs and services out there that you may have heard of that are being offered by other CAs. The CBCA category 3 list is minimal. I mean minimal in comparison to those other CAs. And we only include one program that we opt to provide or include in our suite of programs and services. And that program is called the Ontario Benthos Biomonitoring Network, or OBBN for short, because it's a tongue twister to say. The authority was informed by the province the OBBN must be considered a category 3 item rather than a category 1. I don't understand the province's logic here at all, because this program has to deal with water quality. To me, that would have meant it should have been a category 1, but the province decided in their infinite wisdom, no, it has to be a category 3. And just to let you folks know, this program has been in place at the CBCA for approximately 20 years. So it's not something new that we're introducing to you folks. I should also mention at this time, the OBBN work we do is for determining the health of the lakes, rivers, and streams in our watershed. Benthic invertebrates are small living organisms that survive at the bottom of a lake, river, stream, or in the sediment. And these small organisms don't have the backbone, so they're kind of like insects. Basically, the OBBN program collects invertebrates from a dozen sites or so throughout our watershed, and identifies them to family order. The cleaner the water, the more diversity there is, and any species that requires pristine water are found. It's an excellent indicator the water is not polluted. The CVCA delivered the mandatory services and programs before the changes to the Act and will continue to do so, as I mentioned. Fortunately, since we are a small rural CA, our programs line up with that mandatory list. However, with the new categories, we must decide whether to proceed with the program for our member municipalities. Category 3 agreements would be cost apportioned based on municipal participation for programs and services. The member municipalities have been paying for the service through the general levy up to and including the 2023 levy. So for those of you who don't know, when we levy the municipality to pay for our programs and services, it's based on the current value assessment. Unfortunately, I guess, you folks, you pay the most. There's no getting around it. That CVA, current value assessment, HBM has been paying the most for a number of years. It's how it's set up and it's how we divide the levy. I can't change that. That's what's the province gives us, those figures, and that's what all of us are stuck with. The CVCA believes in agreement, which formally identifies the benthic program. What we're doing is we're separating it from up until 2024. So for those prior 20 years, paying for that benthic program came out of the general levy that was determined by the authority. What the province wants us to do is make sure that we separate it. So we're just taking it out. It's not a new expense. We're just separating it so that the public and you folks know where your municipal dollars are going. And it also shows that all of us have made a decision to support this non-mandatory program. So it's not new money that I'm asking for. It's just, we're just separating it into two different pots here. Anyway, by collecting this data, I believe the information is also a great asset to show residents, visitors, and tourists to the area that we are scoring well, and we are confident this watershed is a prime destination to enjoy and protect. The information can be found in our watershed report cards, and we regularly score in the A range for water quality, compared to many other conservation authorities that may only score in the C or even the D range. So we want to stay on top of, monitoring this water quality. It's a long-term proposition, but it's a benefit for, as I mentioned, the people coming to this area, living in this area, to know that their water quality is good. And also by continuing with the program, we can identify trends. And if all of a sudden we start slipping into the B and C or even the D range, it'll give us an opportunity to kind of assess, well, why, and is there any action that we can take in the future? But it's important to have this data collected every year to do that. Regarding the overall cost of the program for the 2024 budget, we estimate it will be approximately $13,468 for 2 university or college students and the associated expenses. The CVCA is proposing this expense will be shared, as I said, based on that municipal current value assessment. So the HBM share would be approximately $5,200. In addition, the CVCA always applies for federal student grant funds to help offset this expense. Every year, in those 20 years that we've operated the program, we have received some grant funding to cover approximately 1/2 of the expenses. Some years we get funding to cover virtually everything. Even though we have been successful, there's never any guarantee all or part of this funding will be available to the CVCA. Therefore, as part of this budget process, I have to include the total amount that we estimate it would cost to pay for the program for 2024. Anyway, if we do get federal funding, and if the board agrees, and I don't see why the board wouldn't, we could use whatever grant funding we receive in 2024 and then apply that to the 2025 budget. So then obviously it would reduce the overall levy amount for you folks in 2025. So hopefully we get that funding and we kind of set it up as a, call it a reserve if you want to, and then we can apply it for the following year. So if, I mean, the math is pretty straightforward. So if we get approximately 50% grant funding, then you folks are only going to be paying approximately $2,600. If we get funding for all of it, then I'm only going to be looking for you folks for about $200 to $300 for those expenses like gas and supplies and equipment for the students. Anyway, what I'm seeking today is an endorsement from council. You are willing to sign this agreement to share the expenses of the benthic program with our 9 other member municipalities. There's 10 municipalities in our watershed, and 9 of the 10 have agreed to support the program. And this is my last stop. You folks definitely are not the least, but you are the last stop. But everybody else is on board at this point. By signing the MOU, will ensure a valuable component of the CVCA suite of services and programs will continue for the benefit of the public who live, work, and play in this watershed, which you have been and continue to be a significant partner. You always have been. The MOU agreement was originally developed by the Quinte Conservation and the Lower Trent Region Conservation Authority, so no expense to produce this MOU. To us, we borrowed it. And they thankfully they were more than willing to share it with us. It's been vetted by Templeman Meninga in Belleville, the lawyer. It is also the law firm that we use as well. The MOU, I think, is pretty straightforward. I do want to identify or just bring to your attention, I'm proposing a 5-year term for the MOU. In budgets beyond 2024, the OBBN and expenses will be adjusted based on the percentage change to our general levy. So, for example, this year I'm hoping we're obviously in preliminary stages or discussions about a budget, just like you folks. But you know, if 2025 rolls around and we're looking at a 2% increase, then we would apply that same 2% increase to the OBBN network. And finally, should either party need it, there's an early termination clause that's included in the MOU. And yeah, I'll stop here, stop talking, and give you folks an opportunity to ask questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, Tim. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And like you say, the grants are never guaranteed. So hopefully we will get some grants to help with that. But this time there, we have no idea where it's going to go. So I'll open it up to council. If you have any questions for Tim, it's water quality. It's always a big thing. So especially with us with so many lakes in our township. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At Tim's first one, I want to ask my question of last week, but I thought I read somewhere in there that it says that the agreement is automatically renewed after 5 years.
Sorry, you could be correct. Sorry to throw you. It could be. I haven't looked at the MOU in a little while, to be honest with you.
And yeah, first of all, I'm not able to find it, but I'm pretty sure I saw it in there. I was just concerned about that in terms of moving forward. And
yeah,
different councils, we might not be here, right? So I'm concerned about there just being an automatic renewal in that clause. So
yeah. So 3.2.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Unless the MOU has been terminated early in accordance with the terms and conditions of the MOU shall be automatically renewed for 5-year term from December 31st, 2028. So, but that being said, there is a clause in there that you can back out of this thing at any time too. So would that?
You're correct, Mr. Mayor, and I would suggest you're quite right. It could be a entirely new council for everybody. So I would suggest once we get closer to that 4 or 5 or the 4th year, I guess, that perhaps we sit down, review the MOU, discuss it at our board, and decide whether we want to, not whether we want to, but, you know, give municipalities an opportunity to have a discussion about it again, see what went well, what didn't, have me back and talk about it, and at that point.
I think that would be a good idea, just to be fair to
Sure.
the ratepayers as well, because the people they elect, right, they probably want, if they're different people, they might want different decisions, so.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a good idea, as you said, to maybe review it near the end of the term and then save the decisions for the next term, right?
Sure.
And in the
Thank you.
meantime, the Conservation Ontario, maybe we just work at getting this, as a provincial thing, you would think it would help, the whole province, and something that shouldn't be pulled out, so.
Well, yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense at all for the province to decide this is a category 3 item.
Through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, and for Tim, Article 3.3 does mandate a review at the end of the initial term of the agreement.
Right. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
So not really a question, but thanks for coming, Tim. While you're here, I was gonna say, a lot of people, cottagers, other people don't really understand what the Crow does. I think you've kind of talked about some of that today in terms of water quality and whatnot, but I'll just use a specific example that I get all the time. So we have the dam back at Crow River about Belmont Lake.
Yes.
And you guys monitor that, so I mean, so I was just wondering if you could just maybe kind of expand on that so that people are watching or whatever. And you know, how many times you guys would monitor that dam, the water levels and whatnot, so.
Okay, through you, Mayor Martin. Yeah, that's a great question, and thanks for asking. We have a number of dams throughout the watershed. Belmont is one of them. It's actually the second largest dam we have. We monitor the lake level daily. So if the lake level all of a sudden rises, let's say 3 or 4 inches overnight, for there's a rainstorm event has come through. So the next morning we would make note of that change in the water level, and then based on how that's impacting the lake and the surrounding lakes, because it's a watershed, we would go out and make stop log adjustments to, let's say, pass more water through the dam. That happens on a regular basis, especially let's say from climate changes, we think is changing this pattern a little bit, but let's say from March to the end of June, we're probably out at Belmont Lake making dam adjustments. I won't say daily, but probably 2, 3, 4 times a week, depending on weather conditions and lake levels. So we do monitor it all the time. And then we also monitor the condition of the dam as well. Staff go out, when they do go out, they do a visual inspection, and then we also do a regularly scheduled inspection of that dam, the condition of it. And once every 10 years, we even have an engineer come out and do a dam assessment in order to let us know if there's any problems or issues that we need to take care of. So it's constantly being monitored by the authority.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because I'm lucky. I have a cottage right near the dam, so I know it's being monitored a lot more than it has been in the past. But maybe some of the other end of the lake aren't privy to that info or don't see it every day like I do. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So maybe for today, we could have 2 motions here, and one would be that you come back and give an explanation, like, you know, some of the things that have been going on, like a season in review. Like I was out there last week and I seen the guys cutting all the logs to stop logs for Belmont Lake. There's quite a few of them, and I forget what they're worth, but lots of money going into the Belmont Dam in the next little while here, once they get them all cut to size. So Councillor Doherty, you had a question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned quality of water. You do it for every generic for everybody, right?
Correct.
Can you find out what one particular lake numbers are, or is it just one?
Through you, Mayor Martin. That's a great question. I'm not the one that is involved with the program. I'd have to actually check with the students and staff that put the report together, whether a specific lake could be identified or not. I'm sorry, I just don't have that answer for you, but I could certainly find out.
Maybe, Mr. Rath, I'm pretty sure that the lake associations do that on their own. I know Belmont, I'm pretty sure does.
They do a clarity check. Yeah, so.
So I don't know if, like you said, you could collect that from Kosh and I could get you the numbers from Belmont and compare them.
But even if you were to come back, you could maybe include that in your, when you come back, let us know how that works and how it works for specific lakes, because I'm sure. Like I know it's one watershed and everything coming from the north is gonna make it to the south here eventually. I always said we should put a gauge on the dam down here at Belmont and charge the upper lakes for, they have a lot less levy than we have. Charge them for the water that goes over the dam, but I don't think that was very popular, so. Anyways, but if we could, like I say, get two motions or resolutions there, one would be. First of all, we'll start with the why Tim's here and the memorandum of understanding. If council's okay with it, I would look for a motion that we support this program. And that's moved by Councillor Clement, seconder, and Deputy Mayor Webb. Any questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. And the next one would be that we invite Tim back at another time to give us an overview of maybe the season in review and what you've been dealing with at the Crow in general, and it will allow council to get caught up on what's all happening out there. So, okay, that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconder. Councillor Flagler, all in favor? And that's carried. So Tim, yeah, we'll get you back and have more time to, you know, go over everything at the Crow, because it's very important for our township. Like I said, we have 10 lakes in the area and at least 10 lakes, they have 10 major lakes. So water quality and the dam adjustments and all that stuff is important to us. So thanks, Tim.
Well, thank you, Mayor Martin and councillors. I really appreciate your ongoing support. It's always been fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to the MOU being signed and taken care of. It's just great to have your support, and I'm more than happy to come back anytime as requested. So yeah, thanks very much. Have a great rest of the meeting, and yeah, have a great day.
All right, thank you. All right then, motion to receive the delegation. You move that? Sure. Everyone move that we receive the delegation, moved by Councillor Flagler, seconded by Councillor Clement, all in favor, and that's carried. So the next delegation is Jane Colbert, age-friendly coordinator with Peterborough. Morning, Jane.
Morning. I'm excited to be here today because I have great news to share with you. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about age-friendly Peterborough, and I will talk about some successes that we've had since the inception of the community action plan that was released in 2017. So we've created a report card that provides you an update from 2017 to 2022. And then let's talk about the future and how we will become a more age-friendly community between 2023 to 2027. This is not just something that we are doing in the greater Peterborough area. It was the World Health Organization who initiated and encouraged communities to be more age-friendly. So in 2016, we were accepted by the World Health Organization as an age-friendly community. So we're very happy to be part of an international movement. When we did create the community action plan, there was a lot of consultation, and we developed a structure. And we have AFPAC, which is Age-Friendly Peterborough Advisory Committee, who provides the strategic direction for the community action plan. This is what the structure looks like. We do have representation from City Councils, County Council, Curve Lake Council, and Hiawatha Council. Each of those councils nominates a community representative. And then we have our 4 working groups, which are basic needs, staying mobile, building relationships, and learning and contributing. And each of those working group chairs sits on AFPAC as well. We have ad hoc task forces that we work on specific projects, and most of those are community led. So we call this our network, and there are over 100 organizations that are part, and individuals that are part of our network. Well, the 2017 plan, it was organized in the 4 goals, and there were strategic directions that were outlined in this plan. So there were 146 proposed actions that were identified. Well, the report card is from 2017 to 2022. And we went back to the stakeholders and we asked for them to provide us with an update on those actions. One of those from the Community Action Plan was for us to rebrand. We were Peterborough Council on Aging, if you were aware of that, before 2017. So one of those recommendations was for us to rebrand as Age Friendly Peterborough. So this was our first Community Action Plan. And another recommendation was that a coordinator be hired. So that position, it took a couple years for that to go through as a new position with the city of Peterborough. So I am that coordinator who was hired in 2019, and half my salary is paid for by the city and half by the county. So I'm representing the city, the county, the 8 townships, and the 2 First Nations. In the report card, one of the highlights I'd like to mention is our Peterborough Senior Service Directory. On the website, we have a list of all services available to assist the person to stay living in their home. And then we have a list of options available if someone would like to move. So there are hundreds of services and programs available on the service directory. We know that older adults, not everyone is utilizing the computer or has Wi-Fi. So we've provided that information to 211. Someone can call 211 and speak to a community navigator, and they can receive that information. We've just received funding from the United Way to make an information guide and service directory that will be available in print. So that will be completed in April of next year. So it's projects like that, then we as a network can work on, and it's to the advantage of all older adults who live in the greater Peterborough area. Well, the process of being age-friendly is cyclical. We've gone through this once before when we developed the first Community Action Plan for 2017. So we're keeping the same local principles, those 4 priority areas. We did another needs assessment, which is good because we incorporate the voices of older adults in our Community Action Plan and also the needs of our stakeholders and partners. So this is now the Community Action Plan would be from 2023 to 2027, and then we'll go through the implementation over that 5 years. A few things that I'd like to point out that are listed in the Community Action Plan is from our research. So the first one being, it's incredible to know that 30% of the population here are over the age of 65. It has increased from 28% in 2016 to 30% in 2021. And that was 2 years ago. When you look at the chart that's in the graph that's in the action plan, it shows that the largest age demographic has not even retired yet. So therefore, the number of older adults, those over the age of 65, is going to dramatically increase in the next 5 years. So we're not even at our peak yet. The other thing is that the number of older adults is going to grow as people have purchased cottages in the area, and as they retire from outside, are going to move to our community. So there, and with the number of older adults being young right now, around the age of 65 to 70, they may not now need the services right yet. But in the next 10 to 20 years, the number of services that are going to be needed in the community is going to increase. So we like to point that out, that we still have time that we can address that now and prepare for the future. The other one I'd like to point out is that the number of older adults that are living below the poverty line is growing extremely fast as well. What's happening is older adults who are just receiving their old age security and perhaps guaranteed income supplement, the increase to that on an annual basis is so minimal. So it goes like that. But the cost of living is going up extremely high. So that gap is getting farther and farther apart. And there are more older adults who are using food banks and are deciding between having medication, medical appointments. One gentleman has to go to, I just heard about this last week, has to go to Toronto for cancer treatment. He can't afford the ride there. So therefore, he's not able to get his treatment. So people are having to choose, and not having a basic income is not supporting their health. The numbers say one thing, but also the statements and the what we heard from people really are the impact statements. So the one that there's a couple of them that really break my heart. And the one was, I told my family I don't need anything for Christmas. Just buy me Depends, as I can't afford to buy them myself. Speaking to not having the basic income to provide their needs. And another one was, no one sees if I'm okay. No regular community involvement. No one knows I'm here. Speaking to the impact of social isolation. So the purpose of the plan is to, we heard those stories and we created actions. So we have strategies and goals so that we can help those older adults. And if we all work together, so whether we're government, organizations, or businesses, how can we work together to support a more age-friendly community? Our next step, our plan, is that we have a work plan that for each of the goals, and individuals and organizations and municipalities can embed their current actions. So it's what you're currently doing now. How can you put that on the plan? And we can highlight to the whole community what each municipality and organization is doing. So this is a different approach than we did in 2017 when we outlined the proposed actions. What we found was that it was very limiting. So there were lots of other things that even your community was doing that was not reported in the report card because it wasn't listed in that original community action plan. The other thing that happened was COVID, and organizations did something different that was outlined as a proposed action, but that was not reported in the report card because it was not one of those proposed actions. So this year, or with this new plan, we have more flexibility to add things over the 5 years. Oh, the plan has the priority areas. It has goals, so what will be done to accomplish the priority area, and the strategies are how the goals will be achieved. So there's the 4 priority areas. Basic needs speaks to housing, health, and basic income. Staying mobile is about active transportation and transportation, as well as infrastructure that's age-friendly and connected community. And I know I think you're going to tell us about a few of those. Sherry and I were talking, and there's a few examples under staying mobile that have already been done in the community we'd like to highlight those successes. Priority area 3 is building relationships. So that relationships between intergenerational, we want people to feel safe. So having partnerships with safety organizations and also have collaborations between the organizations that support seniors. We learn from each other. There are best practices in some of the municipalities. So how can we learn and use those best practices in the other municipalities? Plus two, how can we work together in some grant applications for the better of all the older adults in the greater Peterborough area? Priority area 4 is learning and contributing. So having communication in different ways so that older adults can access it in a way that they need it. Being in recreation and social opportunities, having lifelong learning opportunities, and also being able to be involved in the community through volunteerism or even employment. So this is what the work plan looks like. This is just a very basic draft example. And for this one, in the priority area is learning and contributing, and it's about volunteerism. So for example, we have a new organization that's called Volunteer Peterborough, and we've put them on the work plan, and their task is to develop a website that connects people who want to volunteer with volunteer opportunities. And we had a timeline on that. The website is actually live. So that's something that has a tangible timeline. Sometimes something is ongoing. So there's objectives to that. We can measure it. We can say how many people were matched, how many people utilized the website. So with those outcomes, we're going to do an impact report on an annual basis. So we'll use those outcomes and provide updates on the projects that are listed on the work plan. And then at the end of 2027, we will do another report card where we will show how as a community that we've become more age friendly. So the next steps are knowing that the plan is a catalyst for community action and change. One of the ways that we can do that and leverage grant dollars into your community is through the Seniors Community Grant. So if by supporting the plan and having a project that is a goal or action that's in the work plan, you're able to apply for funding through the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. So that's how we can all work together to ensure that there's a catalyst for community action and change. The framework of the plan is that we listen and we continue to listen. So engaging older adults in the community, what do they need and how can we support them? As the projects continue to evolve, Peterborough will be a more thriving region that's inclusive, respectful, and accessible to people of all ages and abilities. And that's our vision. So the next steps would be today, if you could receive the report card 2017 to 2022 and have a motion to approve the community action plan from 2023 to 2027 and to show your support. Working with the community and the staff and the other local organizations to support projects that they're working on to contribute an age-friendly community, and then reporting on those successes annually. My next steps are, this is my last delegation to township councils, and then the report card and the plan will be posted on our website, and we will have it printed. On the first page, it will show very similar to what's in the plan you see, but once everyone has approved it, it will be launched as supported by all of the city, the county, the 8 townships, and the 2 First Nations. So, and then working with organizations for them to put their projects and actions on the work plan. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to accept any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, and good report, and yeah, last when we all got together to do this as a group, it just made sense at the time, and I think it's working really well. The only question I had with on your report card there with regards to transportation, so the link, and like I know the community care offers transportation, but the link part of it there, was that through this group that helped that move along with Selwyn, or was that you know, somebody outside of this? Because I've been working on something similar for like the Highway 7 corridor to see if we could get something, you know, for our people to have transportation to Peterborough also. So is that where, did that come through this group here, that initiative?
For you, Mr. Mayor, it was a partnership with Community Care was at the table, as was the Township of Selwyn, who wrote the grant application to the ministry. We did have a consultant, and Age Friendly Peterborough did contribute and was at the table as well through the project.
All right, thank you. So, okay, Deputy
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Jane, for the presentation. Very well done. Kind of plays off what the mayor was getting at in terms of in the report card here. When I went to school, I got a report card and it had A's, B's, or numbers. I don't see anything there like that. I see a whole bunch of, I guess, accomplishments, but and that's what we're going to get into here. A lot of them, I think, are by other organizations. So kind of to the mayor's point, are you involved with all these, or are we just listing kind of other organizations? Like, what I'm trying to get at is here in terms of a report card of judging
Yes.
whether or not it's being successful or not, right? So for the money we're putting in, so.
Yes, great point. For you, Mr. Mayor. So there's 2 points to that. One is my role is I'm only one staff person, and I'm overseeing all of the Age Friendly Peterborough projects. So yes, my role I have had a role in all of those projects, but my role varies. So sometimes I have a more active role, sometimes it's support, sometimes there's finances attached to that. So then to your other point about the looking for the A to F, a part of the report card, and maybe we shouldn't call it a report card. That's what because I've been asked that question before. When the 2017 plan was released, Age Friendly Peterborough did not exist. So it took us a year or two to have the structure to transition from a Peterborough Council on Aging to Age Friendly Peterborough to hiring a staff person in 2019. So, and then with COVID. So we didn't think it was fair to go back to an organization who had something listed as one of those proposed activities to say, oh, you didn't do that, so you get an F. So we felt that this one, we did want to highlight how we move forward, as in how we did become age friendly as opposed to how we did not. For the next one, because there was not a valuation that was embedded in that first 2017 plan, so it was difficult to do a grade like that as well. So this time with the 2023 plan, with each action that's being added, there is outcomes and it will be measurable.
Yeah, thank you for that. I saw that in the prior area work plans you had up there. You had your deliverables in terms of the number of calls, number of hits on your website, right? Which is easier for us to discern whether it's a success or not.
That's right.
The other thing was, of course, I forgot what I was gonna say now, but it was just kind of playing off that in terms of, well, so you referenced the next work plan 23 to 27. It'll have a report card, more like a true report card. who will be doing that evaluating? Will it be you or will it be us as 8 regional councils and county council? I mean, who will, you know, actually make a judgment on the report card? Would it be someone from inside your department that writes the report card, or would it be someone from outside?
That's a great question, actually. Normally we would have other outside consultant who would do it, or myself as the coordinator, but I think that's well, we will do community consultation. And that's a good point, to even ask the community to grade us in the particular areas. So to write the report card and show what the outcomes have been over the last 5 years and ask them to grade us. So I think that's a fabulous idea.
I think that'd be a good way to proceed. So thank you very much for the presentation today.
Any other questions for Jane? Go ahead, Councillor Doherty.
Sure, great presentation, a lot of interesting facts, figures, and suggestions that have been put forward. Certainly, there's a lot of them that we could look at, and we've already done. So I would like to make a motion that we receive the report in its entirety. Receive it, the report.
Okay. And the approve and the support, nothing there, just receive, okay?
Just receive.
So we'll do it in several pieces here then. So the first part would be a motion that we receive the age-friendly report card.
No, my motion that was to receive the whole report in its entirety.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So a motion to receive the report. And seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, and that's carried.
May I just get some clarification on that? For on that first page of the, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. I apologize.
No, I thought maybe you were on the same line I was.
Yeah.
So on that first page of the community action plan, we would put that all municipalities would be in support of the community action plan. And just with the motion that you receive it, is that still okay to list that you're supportive?
I don't see it that way. So.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Martin. First of all, I want to say pages 62 to 67 in this report gave so much information, which I know part of it because I was involved with some of it. I'm gonna pass this along. I really would like to see your website promoted. There's so much good information in here for seniors, people on their own. So I would like to make a motion to support it. I mean, is that?
Yeah. So motion to support the age-friendly plan. Okay, so do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Oh, yeah. I had one quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just have one question. I apologize, Jane.
Please.
I wrote down my sheet here. There was a slide there you referred to, I don't know if it was United Nations or somebody come up with, the term was living wage.
That was United Way.
Do you have that number or?
On the United Way website, there's a whole document on the living wage,
Okay,
and it's local information.
and that would tell me how it was calculated in terms of how they come to that number too.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we use that, there's an example, and so we utilize that information.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'll call the question again. All in favor? And that's carried. So, thank you. All right, our next delegation here, I'll give you a minute there to. Next delegation is Justin Lacey.
Lacey's, yes.
Lacey, okay, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on here, guys. I have never done something like this before, so please bear with me. I did submit a document when I got the invite for this. Is there any way for us to get that on screen by chance?
Okay, just a second. Is that the document?
That is the document. Now, do I have control of the screen? Can you see my mouse move?
Good now.
Yeah, can you see that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, like I said, I've never done something like this. Please bear with me. So the property we're here to talk about is this property here. It's a family member of mine. What they're trying to do, we're trying to obtain a building permit for back here. So this is Highway 46 right here. And there's a road allowance here, Concession Road 4. Now, right here at the end of this arrow, there is an existing home. These people live here year round. There's already power running down this road. There's also a year-round home right here where these guys live full-time, and they also access it off of Concession 4. We do have an existing right-of-way off of Highway 46 right down to the property as well. And I know it's small, but we have a 76-foot wide entrance to Concession Road 4 here. So after speaking with Ira from the township and Bianca, they suggested that I came and spoke with you guys about the possibility of extending Highway 46 down this for us to be able to obtain a building permit for this lot here.
Okay, yeah, so it's not 46, it's Concession 4, if I understand the map correctly.
Yeah, they did. I'm not sure why they worded it that way. It came from the email from Ira. He told me to request that we extend. I'm not exactly sure what he meant by that either, but that's what he said in the email, was to extend this down this road.
Okay, yeah, so there's a lot of things in play here, because it's not a township road, so I don't really. Travis, do you have anything? We do have Travis Toms here, our chief building official.
Okay.
So I don't know, is there anything you can add to this, Travis, on why it's came here?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor. We've been approached to get a building permit for that property because the property is zoned rural and doesn't front a municipally maintained road and have 150 feet of frontage on a municipally maintained road. It doesn't allow us to issue a building permit for a dwelling. I believe the property is over 50 acres, so it would permit a hunt camp, but not a dwelling the way the zoning is for it now. And I guess through discussions with Aria, he mentioned approaching council about, so it's not extending County Road 46, it would be a branch off as a new road.
Okay, and the existing right of way there, is that a deeded access there, or 46 or that yellow?
It is. Yeah, we do. I did speak with the lawyer and it runs with the land. It is a deeded access.
Okay, so that's a driveway.
Yeah, I can drive my truck right down this into the property about halfway through. At the moment, like this, neither of these properties have access right to Highway 46. This property actually does. They have 36-foot wide entrance right up here off of 46, but they only access their property from Concession 4. And this gentleman, the only way to get to his property is down Concession 4 as well. And there is new hydro poles running along this as well.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I haven't been to the site, and maybe if we attend the site as staff with the applicants and the applicants to see if there's any way to make things happen there for them, or through a planning application, pre-consultation, and possibly bring a report back to council if need be.
That would probably be the safest if we were to direct staff to bring back a report, go out and see the site and bring back a report to council on the options here, or if there is any.
Yeah, I would be happy to meet anyone there that is willing to give me the time.
Okay. All right, then, are there any questions from council?
Mayor Martin, do you have hydro off Concession 4 right down to your existing property
Yeah, the hydro runs all the way down this road.
and down to you?
Yep,
Do you have-
past where our driveway is,
You have
where
hydro.
our proposed driveway would be.
Okay, so you did have hydro. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I would look for a motion that we direct staff to take a look at this and bring back a report. If somebody wanted to move that.
Yeah. I'll move
Okay,
that.
moved by Counselor Flagler, seconded by Counselor Clement. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll, it's directed to staff. They'll take a look at it and see what we can do here, if there's anything.
Perfect.
Okay,
That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys' time today.
all right, well, thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, so our next delegation isn't scheduled till 1 o'clock. So we're gonna move right into staff report information here. And we have 4 items here listed. Is there anything anybody wish to speak to? If not, I'll take a motion that we receive them.
Sorry, we're down, sorry, the staff reports.
Yeah,
Okay,
with
sorry.
for information.
Okay.
So we have the fire chief's report for May, June, July, and August. We have goals and achievements from the fire chief. Manager of Public Works has a deposit return program update. And Josh has the recreation facilities copy sign. So these reports were for information. If there's no questions, I'll take a motion to receive them. Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Webb. Seconder. Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we're gonna move into staff reports for follow-up action. First item here is Manager of Public Works, with regards to a tender for the sidewalk tractor. Welcome, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. The report this morning is, the purpose of the report this morning is to obtain council's approval to award tender PW 2023-06, supply and delivery of 1 sidewalk tractor plow. There is some recommendations listed below, so some clarity of the one that we staff are recommending is the new model MT7, and the main reason for our recommendation is that our current model is an MT6, and all the attachments for the MT6 fit right on with no adapters or any upfitting onto the new model of MT7. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions from council? The motion would be that we go with after which choice it was here. Yeah, that's
Joe Johnson equipment.
Joe Johnson equipment. Yeah, that's the easiest way. So somebody want to move that, or moved by Councillor Clement, seconder? Deputy Mayor Webb. Okay, any questions, comments? Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the budgeted amount was for a NIM T7. That's what was on our budget, right? We were going to get an MT7 and it was 165,000. That's the budget amount.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Doherty. The budget amount was exactly 165,000. The MT7 is the new the new model that staff's recommending that came in on tender. And its price was 154,357.29 plus the HST. So it was the tax, the HST, that has put us just over the budgeted amount.
So in essence, the approval is for $18,046.44 because the 165 has already been approved. Am I reading that right?
Lionel, could you help us with that?
Pretty sure. When we Peter would have budgeted for this amount, it would have been for the base amount plus the unrecoverable HST. So for instance, if something was $100,000, you'd have to add 1.76%. And that is the amount of the HST that we don't get back in a refund. The rest of the HST, as soon as we spend it, the government owes us that money. And they get it back to us very quickly, like within a month. So in Peter's situation here, the amount that he spent before HST, if you add 1.76%, it's within the budget that was approved by council.
So you start at the 153 plus the HST, and then we only pay 1 point whatever it was percent of the HST. Okay. Yeah.
So just for clarification, are we doing that through all our departments then? Are we? In terms of the spending, so they're spending right to the limit. I guess, based on thinking the HST is coming back. Right?
To you, Chair. I think a lot of the time they probably are pretty close because I know that's the approach we take. We don't want to inflate the budget beyond what we're going to be spending. So if we were to include HST, we'd actually be asking for more money than we really needed because we get a lot of that money back. So I would say most of the time, yes, they are looking at things that way.
So a lot of times I never seen the taxes included in that. I always just seen the price, not showing the taxes like the HST because it's really a small part of it. So I just wonder, the big thing with this equipment here is all the equipment that goes with it. If we have to go out and buy all that, we'll be way over budget because it won't work on the other equipment. So really there is only one piece of equipment that'll work with we bought a new sander for the tractor last year or the year before. I guess we could sell it with the tractor that we have now, sell all the equipment and go to a different type. But these prices, if we're going to buy all the equipment, are going to be a lot different too. So, but yeah, so it's the HST that's kind of, like I say, normally I haven't seen the taxes in there, but it comes into play in discussion, but I haven't seen it including taxes. So, okay.
Another way of looking at it through each year is that if you take the HST and divide it by the provincial and federal portion, provincial portion of 8% comes back to us, the whole thing comes back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, the whole federal portion, the 5% comes back to us. The provincial portion of 8%, 78% of that comes back to us.
Oh, okay.
So I've sent everybody a little spreadsheet so they can kind of keep that straight when they're kind of budgeting. But it's different between the federal and provincial portion of HST.
So the question was with what we budgeted then, are we over budget or under budget? We're under budget.
Yeah. Future under because we don't actually spend the base amount plus the full HST because we get most of that back.
Okay. All right, so it's council's thoughts.
So when we do a check to Johnson Equipment, we do it for a lesser than 183 amount, or do we do it for the 183 and change?
Future, we when we buy a piece of equipment, we spend the whole amount, including the HST. That's what goes out our door, and then immediately when that's coded in our system, the government owes us that money back, and we get it back quickly. So that's not the end result of our expense. The end result of our expense starts when we send that check out, but then we get a lot of that money back.
Okay, and thank you, Lionel, that's through your chair again. But if I'm looking at this meeting and hearing it and reading the minutes, it says we paid $183,046 for the piece of equipment. But what I'm hearing in reality, we don't. And let's get to what we actually are paying. I guess that's what I'm looking for. And maybe we should make some changes to how we get it, because if it goes in and out, and also in there, we don't have anything with the trade-in either. We don't take it off and do any numbers, but the check we write is 183, but we get back money. So we either do the calculations and show the refund we're getting, or we do a net figure is what the particular item costs us. I think it's a little bit more transparent, and it ties a little bit more into what we discussed and budgeted for. Because in reality, if what I'm hearing is this come in under budget, why is it back to us?
I suggest through you, Chair, that following up on Councillor Doherty's comments, that in the reports, we can add a little bit of verbiage as to what our net cost is. You know, our check, our initial outlay may be X, but we get most of that HST back. So I think discussing the non-recoverable HST would be, as Councilor Doherty put it, transparent.
Show everything.
But seriously, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I don't mean to dwell on this, but would it have to come back to us if it was an item that budgeted for and went in under budget? Does it have to come back? Sorry, through you.
Through you, Mayor Martin, to address this specific report, this one does need to come back to council. This was a publicly tendered item.
Okay, thank you.
And as a result of that, in the interest of transparency, it should be reported back to council what the result of that tender was.
Thank you.
And at that time, it's easier to give an explanation of, when you're not going for the lowest bid. The explanation is now we can explain why we were looking at the second bid. And it comes back to the equipment and that goes with the old tractor. So, anyways, otherwise this would have been about a $400,000 purchase, I would think, $350,000 purchase. So, okay, so, go ahead, Councilor Flagler.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I just have one question, Peter, great report. The old tractor, are we selling that or are you keeping that for spare or something?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, upon council's decision today, if we are successful in purchasing the new MT7 to replace the MT6 we currently own, the old MT6 will be put on gov deals and sold, and then the money will again go back to the equipment reserve, I believe is where the money is put back.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Webb. Okay, so yeah, so that'll come back to us as it'll be declared surplus and that'll be another report usually, right? Or you can do it at the same time, but once this is passed, it'll come back.
Just, sorry, through
Yeah.
this way to clarify. Have we ordered this again?
No, we have
So there's no guarantee we're gonna have it for this winter then?
Peter.
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Deputy Mayor, I've spoke to the Joe Johnson, the salesman, and there's a very good possibility it will be here in around the 1st of December if we go forward with it today.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. All right, so what's council's thoughts here? Recommendation is that we go with Joe Johnson.
Do you remember we have a motion on the floor?
Oh, sorry.
Councilor Clement, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb.
Okay.
To approve.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, so our next item here is water and sewer rates. Always a fun one.
Pardon me?
Always a fun one to talk.
Yeah, so it is for you. I'll field any questions anybody has. I think the general gist of the report is that the contract with Aqua to do a report in 2020 about future costs of maintaining the system. And a lot has happened since then. We've had some years that were interrupted by the pandemic, and for good reason, we've put off increases. And this report just goes through what that's meant in terms of revenue foregone, and clearly to catch up to where the report said we would quote need to be would be extremely onerous on taxpayers, so a $2 increase was recommended.
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Flagler.
To you, Mayor Martin. The $2 increase, that's both for sewer and for water?
Future, yes, it would be for each. Yeah.
So that's for each. And is that just the one time?
Future, that would be to the base, so it would be ongoing from this point on.
So every month there's
Yes.
a $2 increase only.
No, two, but
two
Two.
per year.
No, for 12 months, right? Yeah.
That's every month, so.
$24 a year.
Oh, okay, it's not added on.
No.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, I misunderstood that.
All right,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation with comment in that. I think this might be this council's first go around, but for the last council, we've discussed this many times as well. And I think we're all in agreement that the water rates are getting a little bit out of control for local residents, so. And for us to step up here and start looking at ways to subsidize this for some of these residents. I think hopefully maybe with this water machine we're getting might be an avenue there that we can offset some of these costs, but I think as a council is something we need to address instead of just kicking it down the road, so leave it at that.
okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Webb that we, with the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Flagler. Any other questions or comments?
Question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Lionel. Does our water account, is it revenue neutral?
See, sure, it is, we have been putting money into the reserve, so I would say it's self-sustaining, so.
Yeah. Do the expenses for the calendar year be paid for by the water rates? I guess is that, sorry, I didn't mean to speak there, but it revenue cover expenses annually, or are we losing ground annually?
It's covering. And I'm sorry, I didn't understand the county part of that, but
Sorry, further, if it's covering, then how are we going in the hole?
to Chair, the study spoke to expenses to maintain the system going forward. It's studied by Aqua's to fund the repair and maintenance of the system going ahead. I think it was 10 years. I could be wrong with that. But it's just, I know there's some expenses every year to maintain it. And of course, if there's growth, there's connections and so forth. So growth is great, but it isn't always free. So I mean, it's just their study back in 2020. And I know there has been a development charge study that's ongoing. And there's lots of studies right now. They'll speak to asset management and will be going on the next year and a half, 2 years. So I think they'll all kind of point to the fact that, yeah, there's lots of expenses, unless we want to go into debt, like further down the road that, we can kind of plan ahead for.
Yeah, the two sides of it is the water side of it and whether we have any breakdowns or not. So they try and figure that into the study for breakdowns, pumps and things like that is all figured into that study that the consultant did. And it was actually supposed to every year, I think there's supposed to be an increase to keep up. And that's what this is supposed to do and help us keep up. As far as the reserve that's there, the reserve is there to fix anything that breaks. I know last year we had to put a pump in. So that's what it's all about. There's a whole bunch of pieces to this $2 increase, but it's to help us keep up. So I guess to keep revenue neutral without spiking, that was the idea, that we need to keep moving this direction to keep up with our system. That's the best I can explain it, but
Yeah, I think just further to your point, there's not enough money going in to cover our day-to-day, but there's not enough money going into a reserve for future planning in terms of asset management and whatnot, right? So that's where we're hitting a shortfall in terms of, now you can look at it another way and say we can pull that money out of another account or someplace, right? But
that's where
the
development fee.
report says is 138,000 over 3 years.
That's one of the reasons why we're looking at development fees, is to try and help us with any new homes that are built in the area. They picked in some money to help get ahead of all of the expansions that we're looking at. And the biggest one right now is the sewage treatment plant. It's huge, and that's going to come there one day. So, Doherty, go ahead.
That's all great. That's further information. Appreciate it. Thank you. But the revenue revenue generated from our water and sewer. And taking the operating expenses, they are pretty much a match. Is that, am I understanding that right? Or is one number higher than the other? And annually operating revenue, operating expenses. I'm not talking about capital. I'm not talking about expansion. I'm simply talking about revenue from the water and sewer versus the operating expenses for the water and sewer. Are we like close to being balanced or not? Because 138,000 indicates we aren't in balance. And I'm just not understanding. Maybe it just, I'm a little thick on this, so.
Future, sorry, the 138,000 is in the report here, sorry, what page?
And I,
Okay, oh, say, okay, I see now, sorry, future. That is just the amount that if we had followed the plan in terms of increasing water rates as much as the plan had said, as opposed to what we did, we would have $138,000 more. That's all that refers to. That's just.
We didn't follow it the last couple of years. We haven't done this, even though it was a recommendation, we didn't go with it.
so what is the relevance? I guess, you're just telling us we're behind.
We're behind that much.
And we're going, so Einstein's at work here, so we're going to keep on doing the same thing and producing the same result. I guess that.
No.
I'm just confused, that's all.
So if we go with this increase, that number will stay the same, that 130,000 that we didn't collect in the last two, since this report was done. That money, that number will stay the same if we keep doing what we were told to do. But in the last couple of years, we didn't do this increase. So that's how much, this is just for the village residents. They're the ones that pay the bill here. So how many are on the system? I don't know what the number is, but this is just them. So the water and sewer is paid for by the village. It's not paid by the township. Just so we're clear there, so.
I think the relevance there would be that if people are wondering what we've done in the past in terms of the rates we've increased in the past 4 years or so, that councils have decided that for reasons related to COVID, pandemic, other reasons, out of control costs, that council decided not to increase as outlined in the report. So it was just a value to place to that decision to not increase the rates to the level mentioned in the report.
Yeah, so this report came out right at the start of COVID and everybody was stressed already, and the thought of the day was why hit harder? So we held the line on what the rates were at the time. We didn't increase them. So it's coming back now, and this is, yeah, it's a cost that should be followed. And to Deputy Mayor Webb's point, we're always trying to find ways to keep that water bill down without subsidizing. So we aren't subsidizing it. It is kind of revenue neutral right now. We haven't had to go outside of the water reserve to help with these things, but there is an opportunity here if we had kept going the way we were going. But it would, so. Go ahead.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Do you have a number in terms of what a yearly for operating and what we would put away in terms of?
Future, I don't have it with me, but I can certainly get that
Yeah.
to council.
I'm just saying, in terms of moving forward, it'll help us in terms of planning and in terms of, if we can figure out, as you said, the number of users and whatnot. Hopefully, we might have a new source of income starting before too long. So thank you, Lionel. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just going to say that will certainly be a big part of asset management moving forward. That's,
I'm just saying for us to get our mind around it in terms of to Councillor Doherty's point, the whole number, instead of too often we're just looking at operating costs and not thinking about the asset management side of it and the extra money we should be putting away. So
Well, it says we're 40% where we should be with our replacement cost. I think it's lose that.
in terms of reserve debt, 1.1
Terms of reserve, yeah, you're right.
hopefully
And kind of try the whole thing together, kind of makes sense. And I don't believe, I'm not disagreeing with the motion. I'm just saying is yeah, I just wanted to be clear on the revenue expenses, and I'm still just as clear as mud on that, so I'm, thank you.
Okay.
Council Fiber? Just one question for you, Mayor Martin, just to go further with Art's suggestion about the lower income. Are we looking into subsidizing some of their costs? Because I know it's only $2, but $2 it's a lot of money these days.
Yeah.
For our seniors.
So,
Or lower income.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, and there's a few ideas we have. I think we talked about possibly this water station or whatnot. So that'll be up to us as a council to come up with how we're gonna offset that cost. But yeah, it would be, I think it's something Councillor Flagler that we should do. Up to $130 a month now for water in Havelock is a little bit ridiculous, right?
Okay, thank you.
okay, so I have a mover and a seconder. I'm gonna call a question, all in favor? And that's carried. The next item here is operating budget guidelines. So, Lionel?
Through chair, we thought we'd bring this report forward. I think nobody on staff feels that the budget should be presented to council with a wish list of items. I think we're all in agreement that a lot of the work in terms of printing down the budget should be done before the budget books out. And this is just a way for staff to get some strong direction from council as to a range of numbers that we should be looking at with respect to tax levy increase for 2024 as we start in the middle of the budget process.
Okay, so, yeah, some of this thing here, I've seen it in other municipalities doing something like this, and, I know it gives you some comfort. My big question is, like, you haven't done the staff, you haven't got all the staff, numbers back yet. The big question to put that number, it's easy for us to either put a number or put a range, but, I would like to know what we need within cutting service, just to hold where we are right now. That would help us to know where we need to be. Like, it's easy to say, cost of living or whatever, and 3%, which a lot of times we've done in the past, is just look at a number that we're comfortable to come back to work from. Gone are the days of a 20% thing, and then we sit here and hack them all out. Most people I talk to, when their budgets come, they're close to what, to being passed. There's some tweaking to do, and it sometimes comes back to, what council has on their wish list or what they would like to see. And sometimes they're extras and weren't things that staff were thinking of. Staff is just thinking to survive, what they need. Not too many wish lists happen anymore, but I'm sure there's some things on there that they would like to see, and that's up to us to decide that. But anyway, I'll open up to council what their thoughts are. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, we don't want to close off the options in terms of what we would be doing next term, but the way I look at it is break it down into two ways in terms of our operating costs are pretty static. Like I said, they might go up or down depending on if we've introduced a new service or whatnot. So on the operating side, it'd be operating plus, your inflation rate or whatever, 3%, 4%. Capital side, I'd rather them just bring the projects, because we're going to obviously be the ones that end up deciding on which ones get picked and what don't. So try not to we can whittle the capital down pretty easy, right? Mm-hmm. And then, as I said, the operating to me is kind of easy the other ways, whatever, plus 3 or 4%. And that should be, unless something new in that department has come up, we have a new employee or there's some kind of new service that we're delivering to the public, which would raise the cost. Last year plus 3%. So
okay,
on the operating capital, bring it all if they want, right? In terms of, and then that'll be up to us to weed out what we want to do and what we don't want to do.
okay. Any other thoughts here? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, I think I put in my request anyway, but I do think that segregation of the operating from capital should be done. We can't we have to keep the lights on in the snow off the streets. So the operating cost to me should be done. And as far as I'm concerned, the operating should be presented first, because that puts us in a position to know what we have left over out of the 7 million, give or take. And as as Deputy Mayor Webb has said, it's operating is there. We know there are some changes relative to changes in our department or our needs or whatever. So is that possible to have the operating expenses or report to us? Because you could segment that and do one very quickly or two and get them moving through your chair. What are Lionel's thoughts on?
Through chair, we can certainly do them separately. That's essentially how the book was set up, but we can completely discuss them separately. It can be 2 books, 2 different days.
Through your chair, I'm not looking for 2 books, and yes, the information was in the book. Once you cross-pollinate, then it gets a little bit confusing too. But if I can look at, let's use Parks and Rec. Okay, that's their operating expenses. Roads, now we roll it up. Now we have HBM's operating expenses. We do departments and then roll up. Now we know exactly where we are at that time. I don't think it requires that big a change, only perhaps segregation. So we actually can deal with that department and what their needs are rather than rolling up into everything. For me, and I'm sorry, I'm the slow one in the group, but for me, it becomes a little more complicated and a little bit harder for me to put together. No, that's.
So yeah, it's interesting that I'm hearing today, like with the operating doing it first, because I've been talking to a lot of people over the last month or so on how they're doing their budgets and watching them. And a lot are doing, even one on the weekend was saying that they've just done their capital, they're doing their capital right now, because a lot of things in the capital are time sensitive as far as when you get into roads and things like that. And they don't do their operating until January. They do their capital now, and they do their operating later. And I hear that over and over, that most do capital first to get them moving, but we're suggesting operating. I don't know whether it matters either way, but if is that possible to do like break the 2 apart and do the operating first and then
Sure, we can most definitely do that.
Okay.
Well, just to your point, you said that the operating is static.
Yeah,
So it's,
that's what
the number's there plus 3% or 4%, whatever the percent you want to add to it, right? So I mean, you can do before, after, while you're doing it.
Yeah.
The operating should be easy.
That's what I thought. Like as I say, I just talking to different people and wondering why they're doing it the other way, because that's what I thought. I think that too.
And it's a good point
Operating.
in terms of getting out for tenders and stuff like that, we. So
It's kind of counterintuitive to what we did last year. We didn't get her until April.
That's because we had a new council.
Yeah,
So we were trying to help them.
but I don't know how you could do capital before you do operating. It's how you know how much money you're going to spend. I think
because it's, you know, what you're gonna spend basically anyway, whatever you spent last year, you can pretty well just, you know.
I don't really necessarily agree that it's a figure, because I think some things in there may be and can be assessed to see whether they're high enough or are they too low in order to get the expense. So I think it's pretty close, but I think they need some review as well.
Right then, so what's thoughts here? Is there any other suggestions? So whatever you want here, Lionel's here to listen, and so there is an opportunity here to give him some guidelines, what we want to see. So I'll look for a resolution here from somebody that
like a word this,
yeah, you feel like fairly.
what would say?
Keep it simple.
You want to break it into 2 parts, like.
Well, I would just suggest,
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to, you want to leave that law.
No, that's.
Well, it's just I'll make motion to use as guidance for the budget. Roll out or whatever that, yeah, as I said, to break it down into 2 segments, operating, capital. the operating, they'll let you fix the percentage increase or whatever, right? But maybe last year's expenses plus whatever percent. And then on the capital, as I said, I'd rather not see, a laundry list per se, but bring, I'd rather not have the department heads pick and choose what they're gonna bring to us. So if they had 10 things and they know we're only gonna do, say 5, bring all 10. Don't try and pick out, a couple, and let us decide in terms of,
Priority.
exactly priority need. Da.
So.
That's pretty vague.
have you
Maybe
got that, Bob?
dictionary to understand. Sorry, Lionel.
Yeah, like if you can help them with that, that's for wording.
Probably give me an English class after.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's similar, like it's a little different than what we've been doing, so if we can break the two apart and it would be helpful for everyone. We can try anything. We have a lot of expenses on capital this year that are gonna be coming forward that we don't have any choice in, as far as George Street. All of these things that are happening, they're already in play and they're supposed to start in May. And we probably haven't got everything in there that we need, so that's gonna come in the capital side of things, I'm sure. So yeah, it might be helpful this year to try this and see if we can, make things a little easier to understand for everyone.
I will second the motion through you, Mayor Martin.
Okay, Councilor Blagler is seconding the motion. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Well, that's what I was gonna say, is that I was hoping to get through these, I think they're gonna be maybe some discussion, so let's take it. 10 minutes sharp, back here, 20 after. Yeah, I'm starting at 20 after, so,
Locking the door.
yeah,
Same right here.
yeah.
You want to do something?
What?
Yeah. Right, so there's a couple still to return, but we are starting up here. Our next item on the agenda is strategic planning, and so I'll open that up to Bob and Johnny.
Yes. Just one second. My notes through you, Mayor Martin. This report is regarding our strategic plan. Council did decide earlier this year to work with Praxis, the consulting firm, to develop a strategic plan. Praxis has recommended that a planning committee be formed, consisting of 2 members of council, one being mayor or deputy mayor, and 1 other. So this report requests that council appoint 2 members to the committee to guide the process.
So I said, I've got too many things on the go, so I asked Deputy Mayor Webb if he would take part in that committee, and so looking at our committees and everything, I was just, the other suggestion I had was whether Jerry would be interested in sitting on the committee for this strategic planning.
Sure.
Okay, all right then, so the committee would consist of Deputy Mayor Webb and Councillor Doherty. Will that work?
And through you, Mayor Martin, if we could take a motion to that effect, to
Okay.
appoint those 2 members of council.
So that's moved by Councillor Clement, seconder.
I one question, Mayor Martin, so through you, Mayor Martin. I understand that it's supposed to be a mayor and a deputy mayor, and then out of the 3 councillors, I for one would like to be on that committee, so is there gonna be some sort of a recommendation or some qualification for that?
Well, this was a suggestion I had. This is just the committee to set up the parameters around the, like, we'll all have input into it when it comes, because this is just for the 2 to work with Praxis to bring it to us.
Okay,
Yeah, so we'll all be on there in the end, like it'll be a council initiative. It's just to get Praxis steering in the right direction. It would just be 2 members of council, which is the deputy mayor and a member of council. So I just looked at the committees and suggested that, Councillor Doherty could sit with Deputy Mayor Webb on there to get it moving, and then it'll be coming back and the public and the council will all be involved in the process. In the end, once it's set up.
Okay, through you, Mayor Martin, how did you come up with that decision? I understand the committees, which at the beginning of last year, the committees, when we, voted or wanted to go on, it wasn't really a system of who you're picking for which ward. Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's just a,
That's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
All right then, so it was moved by Councillor Clement that we adopt that committee. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Councillor Flaggett seconded, I think. Did I read that correctly?
No,
I did not read that correctly.
No, because I don't.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the next item on here is the electoral ward system. This comes up usually in the first term of our first year of every term. And we've talked about this, a lot of discussion around it, so there is some options here.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, this report introduces a possible review of the electoral system. Council has indicated perhaps a desire to review the electoral ward boundaries. There are three options, which would be to leave the system unchanged, perhaps redrawing the boundaries so that each ward has equal number of eligible voters, or eliminate the ward system completely and allow all members to be elected at large. This report recommends a public consultation process. Unless council chooses to leave it as is, we are recommending a public consultation process whereby there would be a special council meeting to receive public input, as well as a survey that would go into our next general tax billing mailing.
Okay, so it's always good to have the public involved in it, so that would make sense if we were to move ahead with a public with the survey and a public meeting to discuss it and see what people are thinking. We heard a lot about it in the election, a lot of people were leaning one way, but it would be interesting to see how it falls out right now with the when we do have a public meeting, if that's what council chooses. What's your thoughts? Councilor Clement?
Through you, Mayor. So we were all at the same meeting, plan issue back in September, October, when we were all asked if we wanted to remove the system, and we all agreed to it. I do have a bit of a problem. If we change the municipality boards, we're looking at $40,000 to $60,000 for a charge, and I think the majority in this day and age, if I'm not mistaken, most municipalities have gone with the last one, option 3, where everyone is a councillor at large, or whatever. So I do believe in public input, but we had a lot of it at that October meeting where we were at or September when we were at the arena. And, we all agreed that we do need to move forward, so I'd like to move forward.
Okay, so you can make a motion if you like. Go ahead if you want to make a motion, see where it goes.
So, okay, do we need a motion to go ahead, send it the survey and make it a public option?
That one option, or that's what the recommendation is.
Right.
But you sounded like you were going a different direction.
I would like to see us, I would like to just say number 3 is my choice. I think looking at the other municipalities around, it works. But if we're also here the majority vote, so I mean, if people would like to change that.
And that's what the public meeting would be if I would just sit here.
I hope we get the same kind of participation that we
Yeah.
had. That was my big thing.
Sure. Okay.
Through you, Mayor Martin, just further to Councillor Clement's comments. If council wishes to make a decision today, that is an option as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll second the motion with the comment, that decisions like these, think are warranted to go to the public. This is obviously, eventually it's gonna be a decision of council, but something of this magnitude in terms of, affecting the future elections, is something that we need public input from. I think Councillor Clement referred to, I think we're all, for most of us here, are in agreement in terms of moving forward with probably option number 3, but for myself, until I hear that strongly from the public at, let's say, public meeting, which I'm probably sure we'll hear. But I'll wait for that day and then make my decision then, so.
Okay, so you made the motion.
We'll make the motion to have it taken to the public, that we send out a survey. Is that good enough, Bob?
Through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, so the recommendation is to have a survey and a public meeting. Are we simply going with the survey?
No. both.
We're doing both. Okay, so you're supporting the rest of it there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just a second, so that was the motion and you're seconding it, okay? Councilor Doherty, speak for the motion.
Which of those are going to go first? We're gonna have the public meeting, the survey gonna direct the public, like just for my edification, that's all, which.
I'm certainly open to direction on that as whatever.
I don't know,
Which
I'm asking, I don't know which way is the best way to go.
So if we send it out, the survey out, it goes in the next. What's the next billing going up?
It would be late January.
No.
So that's early enough still.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not gonna do it online then, we wanna do a paper based through the tax.
Both, it would be online and
Sorry.
the
I
tax.
have both options.
A survey online and a public input.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
But the tax bill would
the
be.
tax-
But the tax bill is paper based and we're sending out the
Oh.
newsletter with it. So if you're sending paper online, everything.
Excuse
Coordination.
me, Mayor Martin, there's too many people talking and everybody's just talking.
We're just getting
So,
clarification here, so,
We're going with, I guess, Hart's motion.
well,
And
Councilor
then
Doherty
everybody-
was speaking to that motion, so, just clarification before you vote, so. The way the motion is right now, that we would do, a survey and a public meeting, and I think Councilor Doherty was asking, about waiting for the paper copy, like if we're gonna do it with the bill, we have to wait till January, otherwise we could do it online right now, we could send it out tomorrow, and move it up. It's our paper copy that's slowing us down. Go ahead.
That's not exactly what I said. Sorry, Jim. Mary Martin. I just wanted to know if we're doing it, what order we're doing it in. That's
Okay.
I'm, we're gonna vote in the motion. I'm agree with the motion. I'm just saying.
Okay, so, so if.
Through you, Mayor Martin, perhaps I could suggest we do the survey, the mailed survey through the tax bills, which will reach every ratepayer, every voter. Which we will be assured of because they all get a tax bill. At which point we can receive those results, then go further to a public meeting.
Okay,
That might be a
and the
logical
online is
process.
on there too? Is the online on too then, or just the paper copy?
It'll be both. It'll provide the option. So when we do the mailing, the option will be do it online or there will be paper copies.
Okay. All right then. Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder that we go with that process. All in favor? And that's carried. Next item here is correspondence, and we have some action items here. So the first action item here is the youth committee and a letter from Debbie Otley with regard to the committee she set up. So she's asking for the use of the hall, which we have done in the past with the youth committee. It was around way back. And it was a way of helping, get things for the youth to do. So it looks like a good venture here. What's council's thoughts? I think some were at the meeting.
Yeah, sorry, this is just to address the usage of the town hall, or? Because there's a question there about committee and council.
The correspondence from Ms. Otley requests that council agree to have this committee to create the youth committee.
As a committee of council.
Yes,
Committee of Council.
the committee of council. That is the request.
All right, then, and that does help some of these committees with insurance and things like that. So when it's a committee of council, it yeah, it helps support that side of it. So what's council's thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go with the youth committee.
Okay.
As it just further to that, there was three of us. I was there with Councillor Flagler and Sherry, Economic Development Officer. Maybe Sherry, if you want to come up here and she can explain things a lot better than I can. So tell everybody what we discussed the other night and what the ideas are for the youth committee.
Through your Mayor Martin, we've held our first meeting to lay the foundation for the structure. So we were fortunate enough, Debbie Otley chaired the meeting. We had two members of council. We had Deputy Mayor Webb and Councillor Flagler in attendance, as well as 4 other community members. I think next time out, we'll get certainly many more. And we discussed what the goal was in terms of the structure of the committee. And these are some of the thoughts that came from the meeting. There wasn't on file in terms of reference for that previously held committee of council. However, we have looked at the Matheson Conservation Area. We have the Economic Development Committee terms of reference to guide us. And so we were thinking that there would be a chair and co-chair element where the chair could be the community representative with the co-chair being a council member. Secretary would be, as we have with the Matheson and with Economic Development, a staff member. I volunteered for that role. I'd be happy to fill it. Treasurer, they would have a separate treasurer. However, the accounting components would be in relation to our treasurer here. They're looking at potentially 4 community members, ideally, 3 parents and 2 youths of varying age, because they're looking at age groups from 9 until 16. Of course, they would not turn anyone away of any age, but that would be their primary focus. In terms of advisors, they're looking to the HPPS for an advisor. We happen to have someone who was there participating that day, who would also provide some elements of artistic review and speak to some of the special needs given that person's background. They're thinking of meeting on at a minimum basis on a monthly basis. And here are some of the activities they would consider. Youth dances, bringing those back, age-appropriate movies, board games nights, art-focused activities, the OPP bike rodeo, so in conjunction with the OPP services group, and the Ms. Otley has already spoken to them and they would be happy to support that. And potentially resume at some point, maybe not first year, perhaps second, the soapbox races. So in terms of if we have approval from council, our initial kickoff event would be to hold a Halloween dance at the town hall, which would be held either the Friday before Halloween or the Friday after. So we're looking at October 27th or November 3rd. All children and youths are welcome. No one will be turned away. However, again, the focus will be 9 to 16. Goal is to keep admission fees low. However, some fundraising events will be needed to float events and local sponsorship will be sought. Thank you.
So sounds like they've done a bit of planning and Andy Sharp was a big part of the youth committee. I don't know whether he was at the meeting, but
Through your Mayor Mark, he was invited, however, was unable to attend.
okay. So a lot of those things are, and I was on the committee too, and a lot of those things are kind of the outline of what we worked from. And it was a really good thing for the youth. And it sounds like a lot of good ideas there. One of the ideas there, the bike rodeo, I think at one time was handled by the community policing. It wasn't through the youth committee, but that being said, whoever's doing it, as long as it's done, right? So some good ideas there. So that would be one counselor that would be would apply to go on that committee as a just one counselor, right?
Mayor Martin, we actually thought we would follow the same example that other committees have. So you have a primary and a secondary.
Yeah. So the secondary is just if someone can't make it, they don't go together. Okay, because that's good, because I was gonna go to that meeting. I had a meeting pop up that night. Otherwise, there would have been 3 of us there. So anyways, okay. So All right then, so did you want to do the nomination today, or has anybody got an interest in taking part in the youth?
May I have through your motion, a question? Is there going to be a budget item here? Spin from this?
Through Mayor Martin, there was some discussion about finances. There was previously some monies that the prior committee had and held for a period of time, but when it was, I guess,
Dissolved.
this is probably the right way of saying it, those monies came back to the municipality. We have talked about fundraising, and that will take time. We've also talked about local sponsors, and certainly the members of the committee who were there that day all have strong relations in the community, so I'm certain that we could get some sponsorship dollars to help us out.
So at this time, the budget item probably would be the use of the town hall. There is a cost that would have to be associated with that, but other than that, they'll be self-sufficient, hopefully, at this time anyways, until they get rolling and yeah, it was always self-sufficient before, it ran on its own, so.
Through you, Mayor Martin, unless there's a specific initiative, a special project, I think that is a different request to council. We would bring a delegation and request funding in that manner.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councillor Flagler.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder to nominate Councillor Flagler to the represent the council at the committee. Questions, comments?
No, I was just gonna raise.
Are you okay with that?
Sure.
All right,
So just to clarify through you, Mayor Martin, so the motion is that council approve the youth committee as a committee of council. And that Councillor Flagler be the representative on the committee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconded by Councillor Clement.
Do we want to have an alternate?
and an alternate for that,
If it's an alternate, I'll take it. I don't know. We're full-time deputies.
and an alternate would be Deputy Mayor Webb.
All right, got it.
All right. Okay, so that's okay with the mover and seconder? All right then. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Go ahead.
It's carried again, just a matter of clarification, and I'm aware of this. If you have a chair and a co-chair, the co-chair doesn't go to the meetings or doesn't keep informed on the meeting that they're in. I'm sorry.
It's not a co-chair, it's a council rep.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, like, so yeah, it might not even be a council as a chair, it might be.
Sorry, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but that's what I was gonna get at. But I think, Bob, you brought that up in terms of. It was discussed the other night whether it will be, because I think all the committees I'm on, like the council member is the chair. But I think at that committee, it sounded like. The person running the committee who's not on council would like to be the chair, but I'll leave that up to. The
See how
council
it
members.
plays out.
Like,
Yeah,
You'd be co-chair, like you, but that's.
okay, so
Through you, Mayor Martin, we would bring a terms of reference to
Yeah.
council for your review and approval.
sorry, I think what Councillor Doherty was asking, can you both be at the same meeting?
if there's only two, they can,
Because that's when you get into the
yeah.
meeting, so yes, okay.
If anybody else shows up, I don't know how that works, like, I mean, when we used to run it, there was sometimes at the dances, there was. All of council was there helping, run the dances and. So I don't know how it works now, it's changed a lot, so this is a safer way. Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, typically those details that would be clarified through the terms of reference, and there are different structures. So on some committees, there are two members of council. However, one acts as the primary, one acts as an alternate.
Yeah,
Should the primary candidate or council member not be able to attend? It depends if it's structured that way or not.
so we'll wait for the terms of reference. Okay, Councilor Doherty, you had a question?
It's as clear as mud. Thank you.
That's good. Okay. All right then. So all in favor of the motion? I don't know, okay.
We're really super.
Yeah, we just want to make sure some people change their minds. So Next item here is Lori Bridges with regards to Celebrate Havelock Committee Chair and again, use of the town hall. Council thoughts there. It's at one time they used to use the council chamber and now they've been using the town hall. And it is a, you know, it's helping it out. It is a. But
And just to clarify for any motion that may come on this, it's use of the town hall free of charge.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Yeah.
So you remember, that's good. So is there a reason why the town hall is better than the chamber here? Like, I just for clarification.
just the chamber is the chamber. It's,
Okay.
yeah, like, so it's not really, there's not too many of council on it anymore. I know I'm not on it anymore. So that's where
Okay.
it's, yeah, it's one of those things that we,
moved them out, so we gotta give them some place to be.
Okay, all right. Okay, fair enough.
so,
I just wondered why. That's fine.
okay, so that was moved by Deputy Mayor Webb.
I'll second it with a comment. If
Yeah.
they'll prepare one of those, I forget what it's, sheets that Josh needs so that he can book it in and do his labor association and time management and so on.
So, go ahead.
So in terms of the letter, as well as that planning form that submits hours, whatnot, I believe the form has been completed already. And that information then is used for programming the key to access. So there is an assurance that that person has access to the property on those days and times and those times only. And all that is run through Josh. He administers that.
Yeah, for the town hall.
For the town hall.
It's after that, it's not mine, it's all. Go ahead.
Are you, Mayor Martin? Do we not have a member of council on Celebrate Havelock Committee?
Hit and miss. It's, I was on there, I think I was the last council member in there, but, and I've been hit and miss. Lots of meetings, so I haven't been, I try to go when I can, but, I've missed the last one anyway. Or last two, so. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, for Celebrate Havelock, I'm asked to sit and attend those meetings as well. So I'm able to bring information back and forth. And Mayor Martin, I think up until last spring, actually chaired every meeting up to that point. And we were lucky enough to, we had someone else ascend into the chair position. We would welcome, we would welcome certainly other volunteers and certainly council members if they're available.
Yeah, it's open meeting, so if anybody wants to go, they're welcome to go. So,
Thank you.
okay. All right, then. So we have an over in a second. All in favor? And that's carried. That wasn't done, Jerry. So the next item on here is rather mosaic with regards to the Cadova Dam proposal. So the question here is around the money that we received from the province for the arena. So I think it's mistaken that they think that this is for other use that's dedicated to the arena, and that's where they're mistaken. Anything else to do with the dam? There has been some issues around it that are provincially. They closed off the access to the dam to get across. They used to walk across the dam to get over to their landlocked. Like it's kind of, it's not an island, but it's the property in the off season. They could use the dam at one time, and the province closed it off because of liability. So that's something that the province, they would have to deal with the province for, and we have helped them in the past to try and get something going, but it hasn't been successful. So do you have anything to add, Bob?
No, through you, Mayor Martin, I think the letter, the request is quite clear and the letter explains it well.
Okay. So the motion would be to receive this request at this time. There's nothing in front of our hands, but moved by Deputy Mayor Webb. Seconder. Seconded by Councillor Flagler. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Oh, through you there. So we're accepting this as correspondence.
While we're receiving it, yeah, like it's
Receiving this
a request.
correspondence. But it's going back to them to find fundraising or whatever for this bridge that they want. How do we handle that part of it?
So that part of it is the way we left it at one time was that they would be responsible for it. Now we can send another letter to MPP Smith about it if you like, to see if there's any help for them. That could be added to the motion if it was okay. That they look at seeing if there's any way of helping them with this again, but we have been there already and I just don't think there was the liability thing. So we were looking at a bridge up from the dam and we asked the province if there was any help and there wasn't anything at that time.
There's no grants they could apply for?
Not that we know of. That's
Okay, well, that's okay. So we're accepting this as correspondence.
Through Ms. I don't know whether I'm interpreting your question right. Is your question is, how are we going to respond to this and tell them that thank you, but we can't, and refer the province and we can send a letter to Smith, or are we just receiving it? And
we could add to the motion, as I say.
I don't know, I was just
Yeah.
asking,
Yeah.
is that what your question?
Yeah, because that's sort of thing in the back of my mind. How do we respond to them? You know, so can we add that then that do they have a committee that they could send a letter to the MPP?
I think they've been dealing with the MPP, but
That's why they don't think this. Okay,
but their question around the money from that money that we had, the grant money,
yeah, that's.
that's dedicated to the
To the
arena.
arena.
So
No,
I
that's
think
fine.
maybe that's what could be in the letter is if you want to respond to them. I know they're online, but if you want to respond to them that
Yeah,
that it's
that money's already
money's
delegated,
dedicated.
yes,
So
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
so the motion would be to receive it for today.
that's fine. Yeah, I'll second it.
I have a seconder already. And
Oh, okay, sorry.
so, okay, any other questions around this? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next item here is the Royal Canadian Legion with regards to advertising. Again, we've done it before with I think we took a business card ad or something, Bob, is that the sample that's there?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, that is correct. We have sponsored a business card sized ad previously.
Council Scott,
Make a motion to approve it.
okay, moved by Councillor Doherty that we approve the business card ad, seconded by Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and then the next item here is municipal affairs and housing, responding to the housing affordability task force recommendation. I don't know if there's much more we can do as far as supporting this. Bob?
For you, Mayor Martin, there are a number of items potentially for comment. There is a commenting period here. If we wish to comment, we could refer this to our building and planning department.
Everything? Do you want to make that motion that we refer this item to the building department? So moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconded by Councillor Clement. Questions? Comment? All in favor? And that's carried. All right then, so we have three items there that were for information with regards to correspondence. The only thing I was looking at there, I would like to see if I could get somebody to make a motion that we send a response from the Ministry of Transportation to MPP Smith so he can see about the level of service on Highway 7 and how they're reacting, because I don't think he sees all these things. So I don't agree with it. So I just wonder if there's anybody from council that would move a motion that we send that piece of correspondence to MPP Smith. Okay, that was moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconded by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. And then the balance of the correspondence there, a motion to receive. Moved by Counselor, or Deputy Mayor Webb and seconded by Counselor Jordan. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is the update with regards to county council.
Yeah, that's.
Mine's gone really small too, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't read it.
Magnifying, that's what mine's been doing that too.
Okay,
I think it's fine.
Magnifying.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
And then bonding, right? Click on it, it blows up.
so,
I did that. Oh. It's in this one.
sorry, technical difficulties.
Thank you.
I need a magnifying glass to see it,
Oh,
so.
wow, okay.
So, okay, so,
Small.
Deputy Mayor Webb, do you have anything from county council?
Very good. Very good. Yeah. No. There was no council, we had no county council meeting since our last meeting here.
Okay.
We had the diversity training at Duro. Would you like me to comment on that?
Okay.
Okay, I'll just, leave it at that.
All right then, so we'll move on to, I don't have any written notice of motion. Is there any oral notice of motion? Seeing none. Move into other business. Pull this thing up. So the only item I had on there is something that I would like to see what council's thoughts are on reintroducing a student council appointee. We did it a number of years ago, working with the public school, and with what we just talked about with the youth committee, it was really good at that, to have the representative. It's for maybe 6 meetings. They come in here, they sit at the table, they bring updates of what the youth are doing over in Norwood High School, and they're usually, they have to be from Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. Anyways, they sit on, 4 to 6 meetings, and we can make the thing around that, whatever works for them, but it would be to approach Norwood High School to see if they have anyone that would be interested in coming over. We've had some amazing students over the years that have, brought that perspective to council, so we can, see what they're dealing with and what's going on over the school. So it's just a thought that we see if we could reintroduce it again, and and we would ask them if they would sit on the youth committee, or at least try to go to the youth committee meetings if possible. They have a busy schedule too. Sometimes it gets into exams or things like that, but it would be for the new year. I just wonder what council's thoughts are about asking staff to look into that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great idea. And I know you've had this idea for a while and trying to bring it back. So it's nice that it's finally come to the table. Be nice to get some students in here and have them learn a little bit about civics and local government, which I'm sure from what I hear, they're not getting in their schools today. So on that end, and from our end too, as you said, it's nice to connect with the youth in our community in terms of finding out, what they want out of our community moving forward. So when we talk about parks and rec projects, things like that, these people are more in connection with, what the youth want, I think, than we are as a council. So to have somebody like that as an affiliate or liaison would be very helpful. And I think it'd be beneficial to whoever gets to sit in that seat as well. So
Yeah.
my only question was, I know this is kind of late, I see on the agenda there, we had local government week from the 15th to the 21st. So I think our next meeting, it would be nice. I know that's pretty quick, but it'd be nice if we could get a representative maybe for our next meeting, right? For that week.
So if we could go out even that week and ask if we could get it lined up for the new year, that week there, I'm wondering, we normally have the public school come in with the kids, and they, do a tour of the office. I wonder if we could speak to the school and see if they're gonna be doing that. There used to be a lot of things going on, and the last few years, things have been a little different. I know I used to go over and talk to when we had grade 8s, I used to go over and talk about, being on council and stuff like that to the classes. Now it only goes to grade 6, so it's and that's where, you know, on this other thing with the student council appointee, usually we looked at a grade 11, 12s. You know, so they're older and some of them are maybe thinking of, you know, political science and things like that. They're starting to think of where they're going. So anyways, but on that week of the 15th, it's a good point that we should see if the school is going to be coming over and doing their tour that day, because it's always nice to see the kids. They come in and they listen to the first couple of things on the agenda, and then they do a tour of the office and you get a pin or something like that. So we should check into that before the next meeting. A motion for that we ask the school if they're gonna, it's all changed over there. So okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Webb that we approach the school and see what they're doing for local government week. Seconded by Councilor Flagler. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried.
Do you remember,
Yep.
just to clarify, so that motion would handle both of these items?
Sure.
Student council appointing and local.
Yeah,
government
like we could.
Okay.
Keep it simple. Okay. All right, so that's all I had listed for other business. So the next items on here are bylaws. And the first is the bylaw with MCON with regards to winter maintenance, the connecting link. Motion moved by Deputy Mayor Webb and seconded by Councilor Clement. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next item here is to appoint Dale Terrio.
Here you go. There you go.
Okay, sorry, if he's listening. Motion to appoint Dale Terrio to our deputy chief building official. Moved by Councilor Doherty, seconded by Councilor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. And the next item here is to appoint bylaw enforcement officers and provincial offenses officers. That's with regards to that position, is it?
Correct, same.
Okay, so
It's the same.
same, yeah,
Yes.
same person. Okay, that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb and seconded by Councilor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so our next, the one thing that we passed was 1 o'clock, we will be coming back. So I'm gonna look for a motion that we break for lunch. And we come back for 1 o'clock for a meeting in the open meeting with the OPP.
Correct.
It's a Zoom meeting, so okay. All right, so motion to take a break for lunch, moved by Councilor Doherty and seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? That's carried.
I think it was.
Okay. All right then, so everybody's on mute, but I'll look for a motion that we resume our open meeting here. Moved by Councilor Doherty, seconded by Councilor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we're gonna open up. We have the delegation here with the OPP. So we have Lisa, Simon, and Chris. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so we're gonna get a presentation from you. I don't know who's gonna lead here. Lisa, I think you are, but
That's great. Thank you, everyone. I just want to give you a quick introduction. So I'm Lisa Rotar, and I'm a sergeant with the OPP Municipal Policing Bureau. And my colleague, contract analyst Simon Looker, is co-presenting with me today. So I'm just going to share my screen.
and we have Inspector Chris there.
Yes, our local detachment chief, Inspector Galliaz as well. Okay, does everyone see that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So again, good afternoon. Happy to be here today. Again, we're both from Municipal Policing Bureau, Simon and myself, and we are here in Aurelia GHQ, and Inspector is today from Detachment, Peterborough Detachment. So this is an overview of what we're going to speak about today. We're going to go over OPP integrated service delivery, annual expenditures, the billing model, municipal policing cost breakdown, and the Community Safety Policing Act. We'll also be covering contract renewal options. If you have questions, feel free to ask during the presentation, or you can hold them to the end. My colleague has his screen open, so we will be able to see if a hand goes up or if feel free to jump in. So I want to share this with you. This is the OPP. We have at the OPP, we have a strategic plan and a focused vision. And the vision that we have is Safe Communities, a Secure Ontario. And this accurately reflects our mandate to provide policing services both at the municipal level for 330 municipalities and at the provincial level to over 14 million people across 1.1 million square kilometers of land and waterways. And this ties in perfectly because we're able to provide both municipal policing services while meeting our provincial obligations by operating on an integrated service delivery model. So officers work in multiple locations and municipalities during a shift, which allow for coordinating policing strategies and the ability to respond based on proximity, our closest to the call policy, which allows communities to engage and partner with various agencies outside of their municipal boundaries. Now, we track our services provided using the Daily Activity Reporting System, or the DAR system. And this ensures that municipalities don't pay for provincial resources or obligations. So when an officer attends to a call for service, they have to put in strategic codes that reflect not only the location, but the type and the call for service, as well as the time that they spend at those calls. And the integrated service delivery model really does allow for flexibility, blending, and sharing of resources while policing contract and non-contract municipalities, at the same time meeting our provincial policing responsibilities.
Okay, this slide provides a breakdown of cost allocation for all the services the OPP provide, both at municipal and provincial levels. These figures are based on the OPP's cost for 2021 for the provincial support services and obligations calculated by the fiscal calendar, and the 2023 estimated cost for the municipal policing recoveries, which is calculated on the annual calendar. Looking at the provincial obligations specialized responsibility section, 65% of the total $1.2 billion budget, or $824 million, is accounted for by the provincial government. These services are provided to all OPP police municipalities with no cost recovery, which include traffic safety, investigations, intelligence, specialized response teams such as TRU, ERT, search and rescue, our auxiliary unit, community safety, Indigenous policing, and our unincorporated territories. The OPP are obligated to provide and maintain these services for the province. Under the municipal policing recovery section, 33%, or $412 million, is the estimated total cost recovery for OPP police municipalities. Recovered costs for municipalities involve all resources, including frontline detachment staff and support positions, required to meet service demands, which is captured through the OPP billing model, which we'll look at on the next slide. These resources include detachment staff, supervision, frontline constables, and civilian support, as well as support positions such as our communications operators, prisoners guards, academy, and regional headquarters. We'll focus the next 3 slides on the municipal policing cost recovery under the billing model. So the OPP billing model is provincially focused and divides the majority of the municipal policing costs into 2 categories. The first is base services. These are costs allocated on an equal per property basis across the province. We also have calls for service. These are costs that are allocated based on the municipality's individual usage. There's also additional other costs and billed on specific municipalities' usage as well. This shows the cost recovery trends at the provincial level. You'll notice the blue bars are elements being calls for service, base services, and other costs combined that are recovered from municipalities yearly. The red bar shows the average cost per property from 2014 to 2023. In 2023, this cost is $347 per property. Although the recovered costs continue to rise, the cost per property for municipalities remains stable. This is the 2023 estimated cost recovery under the OPP billing model, which shows the breakdown for how $417 million will be recovered from municipalities. The OPP billing model is provincially focused and divides the majority of municipal policing costs into those base services and calls for services categories. Base service costs are allocated amongst all municipalities on an equal per property basis. Currently, the OPP police 330 municipalities and over 1.2 million properties. These property counts are updated annually based on MPAC data and include household, commercial, and industrial properties. The base service costs include proactive policing and what it takes to run a police organization to operate and respond province-wide. Calls for service costs are allocated to the municipality based on their individual usage. So the township is built for the actual number and types of calls for service that are received. Calls for service costs are related to reactive policing services. So a person, for example, picks up the phone to report something, and the police attend to investigate something like a break and enter, mischief, assault, missing person, or to provide assistance and well-being checks, or whatever the case may be. The two other costs for 2023 are estimated at $40 million, and each municipality is based on contract arrangements and usage. Additional other costs include overtime, which is charged when incurred, court security for municipalities that have a courthouse, prisoner transportation, which has a per property fee, accommodation with cleaning, also billed on per property basis, and enhancements. The municipalities build on specific usage. For municipalities with Section 10 agreements under the Police Services Act, enhancements are an option where the municipality pays for 100% for an additional civilian in your municipality to address specific need, for example, to run a collision reporting center. These positions can also be special constables. So this slide shows a capture of page 3 of the annual billing statement, and it shows the province-wide calculations for each of the 3 cost categories that were just talked about. This is the 2024 calculation. I'll pass it back over to Sergeant Rodar to review your municipality's 2024 annual billing statement.
Thanks, Simon. And just so you'll see, I want to bring to your attention again, we update this number this whole chart is updated annually by our mathematicians here in our financial support unit. So this year, the number of properties has increased to 1,230,286 properties. And our average cost is looking at $165.59 per property, which we're going to go into here. So this is page 1 of your annual billing statement. And as you'll see, the breakdown for the costs of base services, calls for service, and other costs. So in the top box, being the orange box, that's your base services. Again, your property counts are shown. So you were billed for 4,538 properties at a cost per property being $165.59 to get your total cost amount. The blue box is your calls for service. Again, the provincial total weighted cost was $183,003,471. Your portion for the calls for service was 0.2232%, which came to $89.99 per household or per property, coming to a total of $408,393. As you'll see below in the green box, your other operating costs, you have your overtime, prisoner transportation, accommodation, and cleaning. Being, again, overtime was at $7.51 per property. Prisoner transportation, $1.12. Accommodation and cleaning, $4.90. So again, the total calculations are on this side. So combined, your base service, calls for service, and other operating expenses, your total cost was $269.11 per property. In the purple box, this is our year-end adjustment, and this was the reconciled cost from 2022. You'll see the municipality has to pay an additional $7,175 towards, it's basically the difference between the estimated cost and the actual costs. And this basically accounts for the most significant year-end adjustments are resulting from the cost of actual versus estimated for overtime, contractual enhancements, and court security. And you're going to find this, your 2022 bill on the last page of your billing statement on page 12, I believe, or 14, sorry, where you can compare to see what the estimate was from 2022 to the actual. And again, your grand total for this year for 2024 estimate is $1,228,405. and it's going to be a monthly amount of $102,367. Okay. Any questions on this?
Any questions? Not seeing any.
Great.
So
Just a second, we do have one question here. Bob?
the municipal portion in the blue square calls for service, so the 0.2232%. How is that number arrived at for Havelock?
Well, let's hold on to that question because I'm going to go into great detail for the next slide. Perfect timing.
Thank you.
No problem. So this is your 2024 calls for service billing summary. And again, all billable calls for service are classified into 9 separate billing working groups. And each working group has a separate average time standard, which is adjusted annually. So the billing work groups are drug possession, drugs, operational 2, other criminal code violation, property crime violations, statutes and acts, traffic and violent criminal code. The calls for service count uses the 4-year average of reconciled calls for services, which is multiplied by this current average time standard to investigate the call within each service billing working group. So once this is calculated, the percentage of the total provincial weighted time for your calls for services allocated from the $183 million provincial total calculations. So this is what I'm talking about here. You have, these are all of HBM's reconciled calls for services within each 9 of those service billing working groups. The average time standard is calculated. So this accounts for the average time that it takes to investigate one call that falls within these service billing working groups. So obviously the highest is 80.6 hours for one call that is completed or investigated under the drugs category. Okay. Now, as you'll see, what's different this year on page 5 of your billing statement, we've gone to give a little more transparency. We've actually listed, like you see for your calls for services here that are captured, we've also given now the provincial total snapshot as well. I just wasn't able to fit it onto this slide, but the important tally is at the bottom here. So this is the provincial's total, which we talk about to get the total average weighted time for across the province. This is what it was. So 1.817 million hours. The total, your municipal total hours was 4,057 hours, which comes to being 0.2232% of this total. And then that's where we derive, here is the amount, the financial amount for this month, this many hours of service at 100% was $183,003,047 for the whole province. Your percentage being 0.2232% comes to $408,393. Okay, so again, every year this amount is recalculated. Starting on page 7, you're able to view what your actual calls for services were and how they're captured under the 9 service billing working groups. And just so you understand, there's over 550 reactive calls for service types, and they're classified into the 9 working groups based on the common response types and the hours that it takes to investigate them. Okay, so your bill will only show the calls for service types that were attended to in your municipality during that 4-year period. So there are many more calls for services that can be attended to, but on your bill, you only capture what you see that actually happened in your municipality. Again, the data here is reconciled from 2019 to 2022. So next year's bill for 2025 estimate, you're going to be seeing the reconciled calls from 2020 to 2023. In the coming weeks, our financial support unit, they're going to be hosting their annual webinar, which they're going to really go into these numbers in great detail, and they share their mathematical summaries or equations and how they come to tally this, which is quite fascinating if you're a numbers person, but it can also help provide some more insight. These webinars are also translated into French, and they're posted on our website, where we have a lot of really good additional resources that if you want to really try to understand and digest how we come to this. Again, really good resources there, which we've put links on throughout this presentation. Sorry, before I move on for that, were there any specific questions on the calls for services? We can also come back to this slide if you want to wait, that's okay too.
You're not seeing any questions, so
Okay, thanks.
go ahead.
Okay. So this is the cost overview for Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, and it shows your average cost per property for each year compared with the provincial average. So the OPP provincial average between 2021 to 2023 was $358 to $346 per property respectively. And as you see, your municipality is quite below the average. And again, the point is to not, we can't, municipalities can't gear to be the average, but what it does show is cost stability. This brings stability to your policing costs, and you're going to have within that 1% on average, which a municipality can sustain and manage. And again, your 2024 estimate costs per property is $269.11, up just over $1 from last year. So this slide shows how each municipality compares in terms of policing cost and contract types, which Peterborough Detachment incorporates. This information is available again on our website, and it shows the same data from 2015 onwards. So if you wanted to look back and see your costing, you can always log on and you can see any municipality, again, that the OPP police, and in terms to what their costs were and are, and in terms of, again, property count and the estimate versus the reconciled costs. And turn it back over to Simon.
So this slide talks about the contract renewal process with the OPP. The township's current contract expires at the end of this year on December 31st. So there are a few options to move ahead under the current framework allowed by the Police Services Act. The existing contract can be extended by way of an amending agreement, and this can be on a 1 or 2 year term. There's the option to renew for a full contract renewal. Essentially, will look a lot similar to the current contract, but would have a new term length of 3, 4, 5, or 6 years written into that contract. Additionally, a municipality can choose to no longer have a contract with the OPP, but still receive policing under the Police Services Act. This is outlined in Section 5.1. So at that point, the contract would end on December 31st, and the OPP would continue to police the municipality on January 1st, 2024. For both of those options to continue under a Section 10 agreement, the contract will expire at the expiry date or when the Community Safety and Policing Act comes into force. We would need to see a bylaw from municipality to enter into that either amending agreement or a new contract. And Sergeant Rotar would be putting together the package for that for your council to review and sign off. So again, this is a decision the municipality will need to make and be able to communicate with Sergeant Rotar on that option, and she'll have everything put together for you to review. So this slide just provides a brief summary to show you what a municipality receives under a Section 10 contract arrangement. Policing and billing both remain the same for a municipality under Section 10 or Section 5.1. And once the Community Safety and Policing Act comes into effect, there's no distinction between either. At that point in time, all municipalities will have the same option for grants and civilian enhancement additions to the police service in the area. So here are a few things to know about the new Police Services Act, also known as the Community Safety and Policing Act. When it comes into force, it will repeal and replace the current PSA and eliminate the distinction between those Section 10 and Section 5.1 contract agreements. No formal date has yet been set of when this will take place. Police service delivery and cost recovery remains the same, regardless of whether municipalities police under Section 10 or under Section 5.1. All municipalities have the option to consider agreements for enhanced or additional services. And the Ministry of the Solicitor General announced its development of the OPP Detachment Board in May of Detachment Board framework in May of 2021. The OPP does not determine the size or the creation of the detachment boards. The ministry has required municipalities already to submit their recommended compositions to their boards.
And by now, our understanding was that the ministry did communicate with the municipalities. If there was something that wasn't satisfactory, they were working with the specific municipalities to remedy that. So hopefully you got a green light and your board has been approved, which I see Inspector Galeazza nodding happily and thumbs up and the hooray flags going. Okay. Great. Well, this is the end of our presentation. Probably one of my favorite slides here, where again, we highlight the resources that are available. Again, the internet has amazing, really in-depth knowledge and useful tools, costing charts. If you're, want that information as well, my contact information is on there. I look forward to working with you. Feel free to call me, email me. And as Simon had mentioned before, I am happy to put together a draft agreement if that's something that would assist you in your discussions for coming to a decision whether or not to do an amending agreement or a new contract or even to revert to a 5-1. I'm happy to provide that to you, the drafts in advance or whenever you need them. So that's it from us. I'm not sure if there's any questions or Inspector Galeazza, if you wanted to add anything as well. Welcome that.
Thanks, Lisa. And maybe I'll let the members of council just direct any sort of questions at first, and if they want anything addressed specifically about the operations here at Detachment.
Okay, yeah, so years ago, we used to have a lot of spiking going on, and it seems like everything has kind of settled down a lot over the last, I think it looks like since 2015, at least it's being pretty static. At that time, we used to talk about the contract versus non-contract, and it was kind of scary when people when they find out that with the non-contract on how that looks good at the front, but if there is such a thing as a murder or something in your municipality, you can eat up a lot of money real quick, and actually it ends up costing you a lot more than just going with the contract. Is that still the same right now if we went with no contract?
Inspector, can I answer this or would you like to?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So no, there is absolutely no distinction between your costing and your policing services, whether you're a 5-1, Section 5-1 non-contract arrangement, or your Section 10 contract agreement, you receive the same services. All of those provincial responsibilities that we talked about that the OPP has, the emergency response team, the tactical response team, our CIB, case management, things like that. You get the full meal deal. When you need those services, OPP provides because you're being policed by us. The distinction between the Section 10 and the Section 5-1, really, it comes down to Section 10, you have opportunity to apply for different grant funds, which is a Section 5-1 does not have that ability at this time under the PSA, the Police Services Act. As well, you have opportunity for enhancement positions, so FTEs. So if there was a specific need that your community wanted to address that goes above and beyond adequate effective policing, for example, school resource officers, that could be something that if a municipality was really adamant, they wanted to have a program in their schools, they wanted those officers to be there, that's something that could be, again, applied for. Unfortunately, at this time, there are no officer. If you already had an officer enhancement position, you're able to maintain that. But no new officer enhancement FTEs are being granted at this time. There's a moratorium on. But for civilian positions, however, we've seen that being common. For example, I know it's common, municipalities have looked to put on civilian FTEs to run a collision reporting center. Their municipality had a large number of collisions, and in order to divert costs, they had a civilian run collision reporting center. and that helped reduce their costs. And that's something that they wanted to implement, that went above and beyond, again, adequate and effective. So if you didn't have that, you're still going to get those services. But again, it's just an additional option for a municipality to have a little bit more of, if they wanted to allocate their resources to something really specific. And again, in conjunction and coordination with the detachment commander, that's something that they can do. So that's the only distinction. Again, grant, accessible to grant funds and civil and FTE positions with the Section 10. But in terms of actual policing and costs and billing model and billing recovery, identical. There's no distinction between the two.
Very good, thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to council if there's any questions for the group. Councilor Doherty, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, good presentation. I don't think it's a question so much as clarity on page, I guess it's 3 of your report, service levels under B.
Here, I'm going to share my screen again. We'll go to that. Sorry, screen 3.
I think it's your page. Our pages are a little different. I think it's 3.
Let me know when I get to it and I'll stop.
Okay. Yep.
I'm sorry, did I reach the page yet?
No.
Hold on. It wasn't from, is that from her presentation?
Well, so we have a small 3 and ours is 139. Okay. The gist of it is anyway, it says where the municipality receives dedicated enhanced positions, it shall be responsibility for all costs associated. I was just curious to what some of those things might be.
I'm sorry, what would you?
Oh, Lisa, I think I can attempt to answer this, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So the enhancements, HBM does not have any FTE contract enhancements. So those would be, and as Lisa has pointed out, they can range from a school resource officer, a dedicated traffic safety officer, or a collision reporting clerk. So here at Peterborough Detachment, we've taken on the responsibility of staffing those positions with our allocated personnel allotment. So we do have a school resource officer who services all the schools within all the municipalities within Peterborough County. So that way your municipality doesn't have to pay specifically for a school resource officer. We have a collision reporting clerk. We have a mental health or a mental health crisis response team officer. I hope that answers your question. Those were the costs that are being referred to, and you're not responsible for any of those based on this contract.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I guess what I'm thinking about is an example of vandalism, particularly, let's say it happens in Matheson Park. What is that, a regular routine level service?
So
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, that's going to fall under your call for service. So when the officer responds to a reactive call for service, like I had mentioned, there's over 550 possible calls that can be attended to that are billable. So your proactive policing, though, that falls under the provincial obligation. So you're not being paid, the officers are not billing for proactive policing. That falls under the provincial responsibility of that amount. Again, your traffic safety, all the proactive falls under your provincial support services and obligations. So you're not being billed for a proactive call, but for a reactive call, you are being billed accordingly.
So in the case of the Matheson property that Councillor Doherty is talking about, proactively, we would think that it's being checked on a regular basis as the rest of the township is. But if a call for service comes in where a call for the Matheson property, such as graffiti or something like that, that's a call that we would be billed for?
That's correct. It's a reactive response. Again, I don't know if it's, maybe Inspector, I don't know the area. Is there something familiar or specific to that you can shed light on or additional info?
Yes, and the Matheson Park is a nice conservation area within the village of Havelock, and it's seen some. So it's not a provincial park though; it's a municipal area. And it's been been the site of unwanted ATV usage, and more recently, there's been some mischief to parks and fences and whatnot. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right then. So, is there any other questions for the group here? Yeah, the only other question I had, Chris, as far as I received an email 2 or 3 weeks ago around criminal record checks, and I guess we're going to receive any funds from that, which I don't imagine is a huge number, but it still was an income to us that came back to us for residents that were getting criminal record checks. And it sounds like it's going away as of 2026. It'll be, I guess it's going to Aurelia maybe?
So and through you, Mr. Mayor, the revenues or reconciliation starting in 2025 will start to decrease annually by a rate of 25%. So for the remainder of this year and all of 2024, the police record check you'll still get those monies starting in 25 through 28. It will be phased out, and the reason for that is the detachment admin clerks were previously responsible for conducting the service of the police record check, and that's no longer the case. The township will still receive the monies in regards to the fingerprints, because that is a service being delivered by the local detachment.
Okay, thank you. I don't imagine it's a huge number, but I just it is a takeaway.
No, and then I think in 20 both, and thank you to our financial services section and Lisa, and I think we came up with a number of approximately $6,400 annually that the municipality receives. So, start reducing that number by 25% starting in 2025 through 28.
Okay. All right, thank you. So if there's no other questions, I think for today,
I'll ask one more question, just for clarification purposes, and apologies if I missed it earlier. There's a number of options with respect to the length of the contract. And as I understand it, the contract is based on a rolling 4-year average of calls for service. Can you please explain for council the difference in, what would be the difference to us if we chose a 2-year contract versus a 4-year versus a 6-year?
Well, there is no difference, because what's going to happen is, as you mentioned, you're right. If right now your current contract is coming to an end in December, Should you choose to extend it, you're going to use the same contract that was already drafted, only extend it exactly as is. If you had, for example, enhancement positions, which you do not, that would be again extended as well. So if you had them and say you no longer wanted to carry them, we would have to do an amendment or a new contract to account for that. So basically the difference for section 10 here with an amending and the contract renewal is the time frame. However, you can go with, we can create a new renewal of the contract for say a 5-year term, but when the CSPA comes into effect, these all become null and void. There will be no contracts or non-contracts. There will be no more distinction between section 10 and section 5.1. So basically, we're going to be getting new framework agreements, new contracts for additional options should a PSB, or sorry, detachment board wish to get additional services like an enhancement position or funding. Everyone will now have the ability to do so. So right now you're allotted to do that because you're under a section 10 agreement. Because the CSPA hasn't been confirmed, we are continuing to do the renewal as is under the PSA. So we have to, because the CSPA hasn't come into effect yet. So we're anticipating, I believe that memo was sent out last year about spring 2024. Again, nothing's confirmed. So a lot of communities or municipalities are opting for a 2-year amending term just because they know by then the CSPA will come into effect. But again, you guys have to decide what you would like to do, but there's no distinction. Even if you revert to a 5.1, because you don't have any enhancements, that may not affect you. I don't know about your grants. If Inspector Galiaza has worked with you to obtain grants, that won't be an option for you if you revert to a 5.1. So it makes sense to keep your section 10 and choose your your term that you want to go with. But again, it's a little bit confusing, but once the SPA comes to effect, it won't matter anyway. So it just depends. You can do the 1 year, and we could be in the same situation again next fall if the CSPA still hasn't come into effect, which, as you know, the OPP has no say or control over.
So you're saying the majority are taking the 2-year?
Again, that's something common that I have seen. I'm also seeing one municipality to date is going to go for a 3-year term contract because they don't want to continue with an enhancement position. So we're going to rewrite a contract for them and have that enhancement position removed out of the contract for them. But they're still going to be under section 10. So every municipality is depends on what your needs are. But I will produce for you whatever you need. I'm happy to produce both a draft copy of an amending agreement so you can see what it looks like and decide on your term of your time, or a new contract and proposal. Again, you can see what they both look like and come to terms with what your time frame will be. If you want to go with a 3, 4, 5 year or a 2-year.
Okay. All right then. So for today, we can just receive it, I guess, and discuss which term we would rather go, or if somebody has an idea here that they want to move ahead with. Just receive.
That would be good.
Yes.
Motion to receive.
So we're gonna motion by Councillor Doherty that we receive it, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. And any questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Yeah, so we'll receive it today and we'll come up with something and get back to you with what we need, if that works.
It does take me a little bit more than 1 day to put it together. Just we have to put it through a bit of a process, but by the end of the week, you can have, I should be able to fulfill that for you for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I can't see it further. But yeah, there you go. Okay, so, well, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, it's always good to see all that in writing, because like I say, years ago, we were going through so many spikes. We really got to know the contract like the back of our hands, and there was a lot to look into, where right now it's been pretty consistent. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure to be here today. And like I said, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And Inspector Galeazza, thank you as well for providing your guidance and insight. It's been a pleasure meeting you all today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, so with that there, when do we have to, I guess I should have asked that, when do, like she talked about by the end of the week, but I think we can.
Yeah,
We
through
can
you,
read
Mayor,
this
the contract expires at the end of the year.
Yeah, so we're, okay. All right then, so, yeah, so there's quite a few options there. Not many options of who we go with, but, a lot of information, so. You know, the 2 years a way to go, I guess, and the others are talking that, you know, if you do the 4 year like we did the last time, it takes it into the next term of council. And it gives them a year to get on with things to understand it, and so there's different options, so. What's council's thoughts here for today? Did you want to do anything today with this, or do you want to bring it back to the next meeting? And read some more on these options and ask any questions that need to be done. Okay,
Yeah, I'd prefer that we
Yeah.
come back to the next meeting.
sure.
More
Okay. All right. Okay, all right, then that's good. We'll leave it till future meeting. And that's the end of our open session. So I'll look for a motion that we take a 15-minute break, I guess, until 2 o'clock, and then we'll bring the closed session. It's at 2 o'clock, or do you want to do it right now? Oh, we can do some.
Start now.
So a motion to go into closed session.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so I need a motion to go into close, moved by Councillor Clement, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? Okay, so we're back in open. Is there any motions?
Yeah, there will be some motion. I want your pink sheet. That one was scribbled on. All right. So through you, Mayor Martin, we will, we'll take a motion to accept the recommendation of the fire chief regarding the hiring of the deputy fire chief.
Okay, somebody want to move that? Moved by Councillor Clement, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor?
Sure. I'm not in favor of that.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not taking it.
Through you, Mayor Martin, we also require a motion that we accept the recommendation of the municipal solicitor with respect to the item discussed under section 2392 of the municipal act for proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality.
Okay, somebody want to move that? Moved by Councillor Doherty, seconded by Councillor,
Yes.
seconded by Councillor. All in favor? That's carried.
That's it from closed session.
Okay. All right, so the next item is a confirming bylaw. And they want to confirm the proceedings of today's meeting. Moved by Councillor Doherty, seconded by Councillor Clement, all in favor? And that's carried. And motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Webb and Councillor Doherty, all in favor? And that's